This chubby royal swung the blade with chaotic fury. He refused to be completely ignored. But plot twist, he literally tripped over his own belly rolls. The sword pierced his gut accidentally, inventing medieval weight loss surgery. Did he die? Well, yes and no. But this royal meatball is destined to become a terrifyingly overpowered prince. He will absolutely flatten his brother to a pulp and score a gorgeous 1,000-year-old elf fiancée. She is incredibly stunning and literally the most overpowered warrior alive. But wait, after that fateful stabbing incident, the boy's whole existence changed. Here is the hilarious plot twist. Our main character is actually the sword itself, not the chubby guy it impaled. This legendary blade survived countless masters across centuries. It literally forged the most mythical heroes in recorded history. Along this epic journey, the sword made a bestie, a random village kid rocking the surname Leonberger. Together, this dynamic duo pulled off the impossible. They absolutely decimated a terrifying massive frost dragon. Following that epic raid, Leonberger became the supreme ruler. Meanwhile, Gruhan, the mythical dragon-slaying blade, was chucked into storage, sworn to protect his bro's bloodline. That is, until a rude awakening. Some absolute clown was waving him around. The chubby kid violently flailed the blade, screaming about becoming its new glorious master. But upon running a quick aura check, Gruhan realized this idiot was his best friend's descendant. Despite looking like a walking ham, this portly prince desperately craved just a crumb of noble recognition. Oh, and maybe the glorious right to hit the royal buffet endlessly. He thought swinging Gruhan would make him look cool. Instead, after 2 minutes of cardio, his own blubber betrayed him to the floor. The hilarious tragedy. He never imagined this legendary blade would suddenly serve him a totally non-consensual tummy tuck operation. Best friend's bloodline or not, this kid takes the crown for absolute stupidity. He literally just lay there on the ground, cursing the sword. Nobody wanted this greedy, arrogant nightmare on the throne. Meet Prince Adrian Leonberger, the royal family's biggest, most gluttonous mistake. But his entire tragic fate completely flipped after that embarrassingly hilarious self-stabbing incident. Gossip exploded. The prince stopped smashing dinner tables and ditching with thugs, but inside his messy bedroom, a total internal identity crisis raged. Gruhan was internally screaming. He accidentally murdered his bro's descendant and totally hijacked his chubby body against his own will, whether he liked it. Now he was the rebellious prince. Oh, and a literal walking meatball too. Never forget the roles. Suddenly, a terrified maid announced his master's arrival. Gruhan scoffed, super annoyed by this totally overdue random visit. Meanwhile, the master took one look and sighed. Near-death experience. Nope, the brat still seemed perfectly insufferable. The dude only showed up out of pure, painful professional obligation. But our possessed prince had zero clue who this guy was. Utilizing the classic amnesia excuse, suddenly guards loudly announced the king's arrival. The royal father of the meatball stepped inside. Adrian felt utterly stunned by his terrifying aura. Seeing no immediate respectful bow, the king instantly assumed his trash son was acting utterly disrespectful again. But servants desperately whispered about the amnesia. Right on cue, the royal physician rushed inside. Diagnosis: perfectly healthy, aside from carrying 300 pounds of pure flab, just a temporary glitch from massive, overwhelming psychological trauma. The king sneered at this convenient plot armor. Forgetting sins does not magically erase an absolute garbage track record, so obviously the boy was slapped, with the ultimate medieval grounding locked strictly indoors. Time for a mandatory starvation diet to melt that blubber. Meanwhile, Gruhan desperately needed to uncover this kid's dark criminal history. Cue the dramatic maternal entrance. His weeping mother practically suffocated him, praying his precious memories would return. Talk about intense family dynamics, man. The daddy issues versus mommy's pure adoration were staggering. She sobbed tears of absolute maternal joy. She wildly begged him to stop playing with sharp objects, completely terrified of losing her precious baby boy. Oh, poor sweet mother. She is totally oblivious to the horrifying fact that her son expired. What is done right. Showering him with affection, she promised daily visits and ordered immediate serious bed rest. Fake Adrian sat there, his ancient sword brain short-circuiting. His best buddy literally begged him to protect this bloodline. Instead, he accidentally flatlined the kid. Even if unintentional manslaughter is still totally a crime, bro. Well, no use crying over spilled blood. He vowed to live epically for his sake. Back then, as a mythical sword, he constantly cleaned up human garbage. Now, stuck in a talentless, zero-stat human meatball. But who cares about talent? He will just spam brute force. After all, he trained countless legendary rookies previously. Step 1. Refine the mana core. Suddenly, he sucked in a massive breath, jump-starting his totally dormant magical engine. Boom, the magic seal shatters and our chubby hero feels the sweet flow of mana. Too bad this squishy body instantly rejects it. He spams the technique like a glitchy novice, getting zero results. Seriously, what is this jelly-like vessel? If he had his legendary original form, he'd just brute force the energy inside. Just then, a nervous maid shuffles in, holding some ultra-rare medicine directly from her royal highness. She braces for a tantrum, praying he won't throw the cup again. But wait, Is that pure mana floating in his juice? No time to explain. He instantly chugs the bitter potion down. The poor maid's jaw drops as he bottoms up the drink. Boom. He ignites his core, praying this crazy stunt works. Ugh, the energy is pathetic. It will completely evaporate within 24 hours. Like he'd ever let that happen, he flashes a greedy grin, begging the maid for another hit of that magical juice. Fast forward a few days. Our boy is absolutely vibrating with hype, finally ready to forge his legendary mana heart. He has done this a million times before. But suddenly crack, an agonizing pain completely rocks his squishy body. Flashback time, Adrian suddenly remembers a tiny detail. Forging a core literally feels like getting hit by a truck. Worse yet, he absolutely cannot pass out. One little snooze and his energy will violently explode in reverse. Sweating bullets, the kid locks in, channeling every ounce of willpower. Shockingly, after pure torture, the madman actually pulls it off. Catching his breath, Adrian smirks. For the first time ever, he didn't craft power for a master. This core is his alone. Ding, a glowing blue system panel pops into his vision, proudly announcing the birth of his brand new mana heart. Hold up. Isn't this exactly the kind of cheeky notification he used to spam his past owners with? Why is it appearing now? Ding ding. A massive cascade of alerts floods his screen, screaming that his glorious connection to the origin is restoring. Sweet, he is stacking up those tasty buffs, but ugh, of course, the most overpowered skills are still annoyingly locked away. Blinking twice, he wildly scans the room. Whoa, everything is suddenly playing in ultra-high definition. His hearing leveled up too. He can practically hear the dust motes falling outside his thick wooden bedroom door. But suddenly splat. His squishy legs give out as the system blares that his mana is completely drained, 0% remaining. Reality check hits hard. That godly 360-degree absolute sword radar he used to have, totally gone. He is just human now. For now, burning his tiny mana pool just gives him slightly better eyesight and decent eavesdropping skills. Talk about a downgrade. But hey, if he just aggressively grinds his mana limits, he will become overpowered again, right? Too bad he can't move yet. Grumble. His massive stomach demands a sacrifice. Our chubby hero decides to focus on mission objective number 1, acting human. Cut to later, his gorgeous mother is literally beaming with pride, amazed her picky son actually chugged his gross medicine. He was finally treating his body right, but suddenly a terrifying shadow steps into the room. His mom nervously asks if he recognizes the man. The gruff guy scoffs, grumbling that the kid's amnesia is definitely no joke. The queen desperately claps her hands, begging her fierce brother to train this potato of a boy. He is his nephew. Adrian narrows his eyes, instantly reading the room. Oh yeah, this buff dude absolutely despises him. The hostility is practically screaming. The uncle crosses his massive arms, brutally stating facts. He is only here to melt off the kid's ridiculous belly fat. He warns the boy not to dream big. But the queen instantly cheers, claiming a diet plan is a massive win. Fast forward, our squishy protagonist is absolutely dying in hellish training. The tyrant uncle barks that everything requires his explicit permission. If this pampered royal expects a luxury spa day, he better wake up and smell the sheer agony. Bleed, sweat, and grind. If the kid miraculously survives, the uncle smugly teases he might drop a crumb of secret family swordsmanship. Adrian's eye violently twitches. This absolute amateur dares to lecture him, the literal legendary artifact who trained the country's founding king. Oh, it is on. He dramatically demands a high-stakes bet. Give him exactly 6 months. He will completely shatter that arrogant smirk and force the old man to bow down in awe. If the kid loses, he becomes a total obedient servant. But if he wins, the uncle owes him one completely unconditional wish. The tough old man pauses, totally caught off guard. Then a devilish grin spreads across his face. Why not? He needed entertainment. Cue the training. Adrian thought he sounded super intimidating, but let's be real, his jiggling stomach completely ruined the epic moment. Time to cheat. He aggressively ignites his mana, prioritizing the ultimate quest of rapidly melting away this ridiculous armor of fat. The hawk-eyed uncle notices the aura shift. Whack. He smacks the boy completely dumbfounded. Did this potato awaken a mana heart? Rubbing his head, our boy flashes the cockiest smirk imaginable. He winks, starting to regret that little bed, old man. But the old man just stares, wondering what on earth possessed this kid to pull such a crazy stunt. He demands to know who taught him that ancient mana heart garbage, and the funniest part, our boy is completely clueless. Because today, a mana heart is absolute trash tier, a joke, meant only for a fifth-rate mercenary. And of course, our confused main character just blinks in disbelief. He genuinely thinks the world has gone mad, completely baffled by the old man's rant. Sighing heavily, the old man decides seeing is believing. He tells the brat to keep his eyes wide open. Our boy is absolutely stunned. The old geezer manifests pure mana into a literal glowing ring. Suddenly, the massive energy erupts, utterly crushing the protagonist's aura. Smirking, the old veteran explains the harsh truth. These modern mana currents are specifically designed to utterly annihilate basic mana hearts. Plus, compared to the old ways, it is infinitely easier and completely stable. Even the stubborn Count Eli family who fiercely defended the mana heart went completely bankrupt 100 years ago. Nobody touches that garbage anymore. Fast forward a bit, our hero is nose deep in some history books, finally realizing the meta has completely flipped. Mages now rely on magic circles, while modern knights weave aura currents. A knight's rank depends entirely on their current count, scaling from 1 all the way to 5 currents. Honestly, the system does not sound totally crazy, but as he flips the page, a very specific name catches his eye: Alt Ringen. Our boy freezes. He remembers a weirdo from a long time ago, a guy who was not a swordsman or a mage but used a totally bizarre technique. That nostalgic name leaves him wondering about the guy's ultimate fate. Shortly after, our main character goes right back to his brutal training grind. Suddenly, his uncle interrupts, asking if he did his homework last night. Surely the kid realizes how incredibly stupid his stubborn choices were by now, but our boy just smirks with absolute confidence. He boldly declares that he has not made a single mistake. He boldly insists all mana hearts are not equal, cheekily asking if the old man understands actual power scaling. His uncle just sighs at the nonsense, noting that plenty of bottom-tier mercenaries spew that exact same delusional garbage. He warns about fools who cosplay as legendary heroes from centuries past. Does the brat even know the tragic fate of those delusional idiots? They could not even scratch a 2-current knight, and were utterly wiped out. But if our boy thinks he is so special, he needs to beat a double-current knight win, and the uncle will officially become his guardian, fulfilling his mother's final wish. Hearing this supposedly grand prize, our sassy hero tilts his head. Is having this grumpy uncle as a guardian actually a good reward? Dead silence fills the room. The uncle's eye twitches in sheer annoyance as he barks his glorious resume: a Kingdom Count Northern Army commander and one of His Majesty's 5 silver lions. Seriously, this guy hoards a ridiculous amount of legendary titles. He is also a 4-ring knight with endless other achievements, but I am too lazy to list them all. Basically, he is the legendary Baal Valahard. He roars, asking who could possibly top his insane status. Are those overwhelming qualifications finally enough for him? Instantly, every single soldier draws their blade, begging the legendary Valahard to step back and calm down. Damn, this guy radiates pure menace. The tension explodes as the two stubborn warriors lock eyes in a deadly staring contest. Cut to a bit later, our protagonist is totally gasping for air as his uncle calls it a day. Stumbling through the grand castle, our hero realizes he actually almost died. He kicks open his bedroom door only to find a mysterious figure patiently waiting inside. Adrian immediately recognizes the royal physician. The old doctor awkwardly bows, completely flattered that His Highness actually remembers a humble servant like him. Skipping all pleasantries, our boy fiercely demands to know why he is trespassing in his room. The nervous doctor stammers out that the queen strictly ordered him to cast high-level healing magic. The glowing spell activates, but Adrian literally throws the poor doctor out into the hallway. He screams that healing now would completely ruin his brutal, muscle-tearing gains. Meanwhile, a hidden knight watches this absolute madness unfold, utterly bewildered by the prince's chaotic behavior. Suddenly, a bratty kid kicks the door wide open, looking for his older brother. The sassy kid stares down our snacking protagonist, rudely demanding to know who this idiot is. Panic flashes. The loyal knight desperately whispers that this munching weirdo is actually the third prince. Instantly switching gears, the smug little punk smirks, mentioning he heard about the prince's pathetic little accident. He sarcastically complains that Adrian looks way too healthy. Annoyed, our hero snaps back, asking if this bored little brat just came all the way here to talk trash. Oh man, this arrogant kid is absolutely begging for a royal beatdown. The young prince flares up with pure rage. He mocks Adrian as the moron who stabbed himself smoothly, pivoting to some very juicy gossip he just uncovered. Rumor has it, Adrian made an insane bet with Count Valahard and is literally going to duel a double-current knight. With a wicked grin, the brat formally challenges him. Let me be your opponent. Oh baby, the dramatic tension is officially skyrocketing. Left alone in the quiet aftermath, Adrian just scratches his head. Are all the royal descendants of Leon Burr total drama queens? Out of nowhere, that shiny knight brags about Prince Gilliam. Apparently, the royal brat has been a sword prodigy since wearing diapers. Hitting the 2-ring rank at 14 is no joke. Right then, a maid pops up carrying a giant stack of mail for our boy. Our poor main character was completely, utterly clueless. Checking the mail, bam. Every single letter is a formal duel challenge. Everyone just wants a free, completely legal pass to beat up the local idiot. But did our boy flinch? Heck no. He smirks, waving the maid over and orders her to put every single hater on his hit list. Cut to the training grounds. The legendary uncle glares at our protagonist, barking at him to grab a heavy blade. For their little bet to be valid, the kid needs absolute basics. The old man refuses to hear any whiny excuses about losing due to zero foundation. Nodding along, Adrian casually snatches the heavy sword off the dirt. But suddenly, a terrifying sensation hits him. Behold the dreaded curse of extreme muscle cramps. His uncle blinks in shock. Wait, did he not get treated with healing magic? But our big brain protagonist counters perfectly. A true knight knows healing magic just resets the muscles I need, those sweet gains from natural recovery. Valahard goes totally silent, weirdly impressed. He readies his own weapon, grumbling, "Watch closely, brat. I am only demonstrating this technique exactly once." This is the legendary foundational sword art, the exact same routine every royal knight learns. With a fierce shout, he unleashes the technique with absolute masterclass precision. Holy smokes, the old man is an absolute monster. Our boy just stares with his jaw dropped. But wait a second. Did he not just call this a super basic, beginner-level routine for Kingdom rookies? Valahard smirks, claiming it is incredibly faithful to the core fundamentals. There is literally no better starting point for a total rookie. Plus, with the kid's trash talent, it should be plenty. Hearing that brutal roast, the protagonist bursts into hysterical laughter. It was hilarious. To think the ancient mythical art that slaughtered the mad dragon was now treated like a basic gym warm-up. Clearing his throat, the uncle firmly states that, swinging like a rookie, will not win any crazy bets. Once he memorizes this warm-up, he better go beg his wealthy mommy to hire a real combat master. But our boy smirks and shakes his head. No need for that. He refuses to learn anything else. This dragon-slaying basic art is totally overpowered anyway. The grumpy man gasps, then shrugs it off. Suit yourself, crazy kid. Wasting zero time, our chubby hero immediately begins his brutal grind. Still, his mind is blown. How did a glorious mythical dragon slicing art downgrade into a totally pathetic gym class exercise? Honestly, it deeply stings his pride to even think about it, but it makes total sense. The original art required a terrifying will to butcher dragons. Modern knights just ditched the required mana heart completely. These modern weaklings completely forgot how to infuse deadly aura into a blade. Naturally, they are totally blind to this technique's god-tier potential. Clang. Out of nowhere, Valahard lightning fast draws his blade, effortlessly parrying the boy's heavy swing. He scolds the kid, "Bulging your bicep does not magically transfer power to the steel. Hey, at least the grumpy old man is actually coaching." He aggressively points a finger at the kid's trembling posture. "Connect your core," he roars that true swordsmanship requires perfect energy flow, from the toes all the way up to the grip. Digesting the harsh lesson, our boy shakily stands back up. He perfectly knows his current squishy body can barely mimic the watered-down technique. But mark his words, he will personally prove this art is absolute supreme tier. And so began the ultimate training montage lasting for agonizing weeks. Boom. One brutal month later, the holy blue screen chimes. His bone-crushing grind successfully triggered a massive physical evolution. The ultimate upgrade, extreme obesity, evolved into ordinary obesity. His metabolism is literally on fire, now easily handling the insane, non-stop repetitive muscle torture. Step by slow step, our chubby king is transforming into an absolute walking tank. Oh yeah, he feels the magic. The heavy steel blade flows way smoother than it did 30 miserable days ago. His raw physical stats are visibly skyrocketing with every single sunrise. "I said stop, you crazy brat," his uncle furiously roars. The heavy training sword clatters into the dirt, leaving a deeply tense, suffocating silence behind. Drip drip. The protagonist's overworked palms were completely drenched in his own blood. The fierce old man stomps closer. Adrian avoids eye contact, looking at the solid wooden dummy, which was now absolute splinters. "It looked like an angry thunder god struck it down," the uncle growls. "If that was live steel, you would be missing a literal limb right now." The stubborn kid just takes the scolding quietly. Staring down, his once soft palms were now covered in tough warrior calluses. Ding. The beautiful system notification pops up happily, announcing he achieved a godlike state of extreme focus. Thud, his battery hits zero and he instantly face plants into the dirt. Valahard just stands there staring at his crazy nephew. "What an absolute idiot," he mutters, but a spark of pure respect finally flickers in his eyes. Soon after, our glorious hero blinks awake, realizing he completely blacked out. Previously, he had absolutely zero clue about this fragile meatbag's limits. Back when he was a literal sword, he had maxed out every legendary achievement alongside epic heroes. He carried entire wars, upgraded mortal souls to godhood, and practically babysat those legendary chosen ones. The mighty Gruhan, a genius mentor and supreme guide. Yet he was always stuck as the ultimate third wheel. Craving that sweet main character energy, he swung his blade, endlessly obsessed with claiming all the glory and sweat for himself. But push too hard and this trash-tier body will literally shatter. Time for some desperately needed stat balancing. 1 month has passed since he forged his mana heart, quietly hoarding magical energy like a complete loot goblin. Finally ready to level up, our boy closes his eyes, focusing his inner energy. Ding. The system cheerfully announces his hardcore grinding paid off. His mana capacity just got a solid buff. His mana heart thumps with upgraded power. Eyes snapping open, the sweet fruits of his brutal labor are finally showing. Without missing a single beat, our guy immediately reaches for his trusty blade. Ding! The system chimes again. Congratulations, you are now officially a sword apprentice. Plus, he unlocked the basic starter pack, unleashing aura at the most foundational stage. Later at the training yard, his uncle crashes the party, sighing that juicy kingdom-wide rumors are spreading fast. All thanks to that ridiculous bet. He suggests finding a punching bag for a duel before things escalate. Adrian smirks, revealing his victim is already picked, though fighting a dual current user right away is pure suicide. So farming experience points from single current newbies is the absolute smartest play. Adrian summons his loyal knight, who bows and confirms the trap has been perfectly set. Handing over a giant stack of salty challenge letters, the knight asks if the beatdowns are really happening. These haters definitely want him dead. But our boy is 10 steps ahead. That is exactly why Uncle Dearest is refereeing. Not asking for a miracle here. Just babysit the match so nobody accidentally becomes a corpse. Just a tiny favor. Fast forward 24 hours and the highly anticipated SmackDown officially begins. Challenger number 1 storms the gates, fuming about facing the supposedly trash-tier first prince. Enter Taylor, the extremely bitter second son of an aggressively average noble household. Years ago, the old Adrian utterly roasted his father and brother into absolute oblivion. The family honor completely tanked, turning them into the kingdom's favorite walking punchlines even today. Fueled by pure spite, Taylor is fully ready to dish out some brutal karma. He glares at the prince, proudly declaring himself as Taylor, a formidable single current knight. Adrian yawns, dismissing the stiff formalities. Then he casually drops a nuke. "Are you actually a knight? You look incredibly weak." Taylor practically combusts with rage. The rumors were dead right about this arrogant jerk. Uncle Valahard gracefully steps in, patting the raging boy down and demanding he chill his premature aura. Taylor instantly turns into a massive fanboy, bowing deeply to the legendary Valahard. Adrian pouts, grumbling about stolen prince privileges. His uncle mercilessly roasts him back for his terrible reputation. Banter aside, the stage is set. The intense stare-down finally begins. Taylor ignites his blazing aura and blitzes forward, but Adrian smoothly flexes his mana heart, casually parrying the heavy blow. Taylor violently jumps back, completely mind-blown by Adrian using such a high-tier defensive style. He stammers in disbelief. A mana heart simply cannot block a raging mana current. Panicking, he wonders if his single current status is secretly absolute trash. The entire courtyard gasps in unison. Valahard narrows his eyes, recognizing the legendary Song of the Sword. Refusing to accept reality, Taylor desperately launches another furious assault. Adrian calmly reads the telegraphed moves, effortlessly deflecting him again. This humiliating game of tag continues until Taylor is completely gassed out and wheezing. Adrian pants heavily too, realizing the brutal rumors about mana currents countering mana hearts were completely accurate. His internal energy is literally threatening to reverse flow. Shaking it off, Adrian casually asks if he mentioned being Baron Talheim's second son. Whatever, time to cool down. Closing his eyes, our overpowered prince slips into a deep combat trance. He commands his true essence to awaken demonic or divine. That legendary blade is permanently etched into his soul. Boom, that colossal dragon awakens. Adrian realizes this is the blade's ancient memory, the pure essence forged strictly to slaughter dragons. The true power of a dragon-slaying blade. Crazy enough, he's actually pulling it off inside that trash-tier body. Meanwhile, divine energy explodes upward, leaving poor Taylor completely malfunctioning, trying to process the absolute chaos. Valhard instantly orders them to halt the duel, but our boy Adrian, completely deaf to reason, he launches himself at the kid. Suddenly, cue the flashback. The main character solemnly tells his uncle he has one crucial request. If he's about to accidentally murder his opponent, Uncle absolutely must intervene. And well, that exact nightmare scenario just triggered. Bam, our poor protagonist gets launched into orbit. Valhard doesn't play games. The kid ends up totally flattened. Panic erupts as soldiers restrain Valhard, screaming that launching the prince might just count as royal assassination. But Adrian staggers up, barking at everyone to back the heck off since he literally asked for it. Still, he definitely didn't ask for a one-hit knockout. Right on cue, our boy instantly blacks out. Waking up later, he realizes his uncle's monstrous strength makes single-core trash look like a joke. Luckily, his body miraculously survived intact. Hey, a win is a win, right? Suddenly his uncle barges in, demanding to know what kind of crazy stunt that was. He demands answers about that corrupted blade technique, swearing he absolutely never taught his nephew something so demonic. Smirking confidently, our protagonist claims he was simply embracing the blade's true, unadulterated essence. Valhard goes dead silent. He questions if this so-called essence is purely built on raw, unfiltered killing intent. It is deeply unsettling, but undeniable. That terrifying path is still a valid truth. Our boy blinks in shock. He totally expected a boring lecture about the righteous path and refining one's noble spirit. But plot twist, Uncle declares he isn't some shiny knight, but a ruthless soldier walking the bloody path of victory. However, that murderous energy is dangerously excessive. Keep that up and he'll blindly slaughter both friend and foe alike. For now, he'll simply watch from the sidelines to see if those inner demons finally devour the kid alive. 3 chaotic days later, Adrian finishes sparring, casually confirming Taylor's name and tossing him a rare compliment for surviving this long. Seriously, blocking a blade overflowing with uncontrollable murderous rage for 3 straight days is absolutely insane. Right after our cheeky brat summons the maid who lugs over a mysterious wooden chest, he mentions hearing about her unforgivable past sins, unsure if this little gift will actually clear her guilty conscience. Either way, she must deliver it to her dad. Training done, Adrian dismisses him, refusing to clean up the original trash owner's ridiculous messes. Still, if you work someone to the bone, paying up is only fair. Time flies, and the prince's wild duels become the kingdom's juiciest trending gossip. Honestly, his terrible reputation might actually be getting weirder. Days pass, yet the disastrous defeat everyone desperately waited for never drops. The knights' opinions are drastically shifting, while the royal family is desperately trying to bury the hype. Yet our protagonist grumbles, claiming those sore losers are just keeping quiet because getting trashed by him is pure humiliation. These jobless nobles desperately need a real hobby, instead of gossiping all day long. Valhard deadpans, telling him a notorious troublemaker has absolutely zero right to preach about productivity. The boy glares at the nearby knight, commanding him to leak the absolute beatdown results when he finally leaves. That should kill the rumors, but suddenly the maid pops in, dropping a bomb. People actually think he faked today's victory using a magic sword. Adrian groans in pure annoyance. Whatever, he'll just ignore the haters and keep grinding his swordsmanship. He unleashes a flurry of blinding strikes, his fragile mana core steadily mutating into something terrifying. Smirking, he demands the remaining body count. The knight sweats, confirming only one challenger left today. Adrian yawns, calling apprentice knights total fodder now. But wait, the final boss is a true master of the blade. She refused to just sit around polishing her family's heirloom. A rogue prodigy who joined a hardcore knight order, enter Arwen Karen. Just her walking in makes every single soldier break their necks staring. Dubbed the Cliff Flower and Thorny Rose, this legendary beauty has completely shattered countless fragile male egos. A genuinely terrifying woman. To make a big shot like her volunteer for a beatdown, our prince's insane reputation is definitely working. Still, the guards eagerly whisper how absolutely hilarious it would be to watch her curb stomp the arrogant prince. Wait, are you seriously rooting for the enemy boss? The Iron Lion Knights are absolute legends. They completely dominate the entire kingdom in both brutal strength and epic reputation. Getting scouted by them means your glorious future is absolutely secured. Naturally, Adrian is totally clueless. Why would a massive prodigy challenge a guy like him? Well, turns out his past self stirred up some serious drama with her. Our main character instantly breaks into a cold sweat. What disaster did his trashy past self cause? He desperately interrogates a trembling maid. Oh, he completely trashed her pride. Adrian immediately wants to punch his own face. Cue the traumatic flashback of him creeping up on her shoulder. Past Adrian acts all high and mighty. Calling her amusing, he actually has the sheer audacity to demand she become his personal maid. But she absolutely drops the mic. Slapping his greasy hand away, she sharply reminds this royal jerk that knights are not his toys. And obviously his pathetic past version throws a massive tantrum, ridiculously calling her totally ugly. Back in reality, present day, Adrian is absolutely speechless at his own stupidity. Ugly. Is his past self completely blind? Suddenly, the fierce knight steps up, sarcastically welcoming our boy, and noting his trash personality remains totally identical. She is radiating pure, murderous intent, and honestly, Adrian knows he completely deserves it. Suddenly, Valahard steps onto the scene, sizing her up. She formally introduces herself as a proud apprentice of the legendary Iron Lion Vanguard. Hilariously, Valahard casually warns her to watch out since the prince fights incredibly dirty with a highly toxic blade. Unbelievable. His own guard is actively praying for his downfall. With the absolute sheer disrespect established, this brutal showdown finally kicks off. In a flash of cold steel, she draws her weapon. Adrian braces himself to witness the terrifying genius of the kingdom's ultimate rising star. Like an absolute missile, she violently explodes forward to crush him. Her speed is undeniably monstrous. He barely parries the devastating blow, feeling his own magical energy desperately trying to spark alive. Completely unfazed, this fierce prodigy reads his every flinch instantly, unleashing an absolutely merciless barrage of furious slashes. Our royal mess is getting completely folded. At this brutal pace, he is totally going to become night food. She dives in for the kill desperately. Adrian instantly triggers his ridiculously overpowered dragon-slaying technique. Arwen immediately senses the lethal shift. He flawlessly parries her strike, forcing her to leap back in total shock at his bizarre martial art. Smirking, Adrian mocks the average trash fighters. He boldly claims that her terrifying power completely shatters the ceiling of those pathetic rankers. Secretly firing up his cheat system, he scans her stats. Since his restricted level can actually read her, this monster must finally be within his range. The warm-up phase is officially over. With massive killing intent, these two absolute lunatics violently crash into each other. Hours vanish, leaving both fighters totally gasping for absolute air. Stepping into the arena, Valahard physically separates them. He declares, "This bloodbath paused, forcing a dramatic rematch for tomorrow." Sweating bullets, Adrian hilariously bluffs that he was 1 second from winning. Not backing down, the girl completely matches his ridiculous cocky energy. These stubborn idiots practically bark at each other. Valahard aggressively shuts down their childish argument, demanding they immediately fix their battered bodies. Magical medics instantly rush the field with glowing spells. Meanwhile, our boy and the fierce knight secretly glare at each other with newfound respect. Parting ways for the night, Adrian promises his own ego he absolutely will not lose. Fast forward through an absolute mountain of brutal clashes, the spectating guards are completely losing their minds over this endless warfare. Welcome to day 3 of this chaotic marathon. Everyone is totally shell-shocked, knowing exactly how terrifyingly strong Arwen actually is. Turns out their notorious prince is actually a hidden beast. Still, the exhausted crowd desperately prays this nightmare finally ends today. Stepping back into the ring, Adrian suddenly halts the action. He dramatically announces a crucial condition. Arwen immediately glares ready to reject him. If this royal trash is trying to apologize now, she will literally carve him up. But our crazy boy completely flips the script. A boring fight needs spicy stakes, so he officially demands a winner-takes-all reward. The ultimate gamble. The absolute loser must grant the winner one single undeniable wish. The arena instantly goes completely dead silent. The loyal guards totally freak out. A royal prince making degenerate bets is scandalous, but our shameless hero does not give a single care. Smirking, he throws down the ultimate gauntlet. Arwen coldly replies that despite her rookie status, her knightly pride is absolutely on the line. Bound by the heavy honor of Leonberger, she usually would never dare humiliate royalty in such a reckless gamble. But since he practically begs for a glorious beatdown, she fiercely accepts this completely ridiculous wager. Hook, line, and sinker, Adrian whips out his blade with a chaotic grin, warning her not to cry later. This is a recipe for absolute disaster. The explosive clash violently resumes, completely shaking the arena. Adrian is absolutely buzzing with adrenaline, finally unleashing his totally broken technique again. Arwen is completely stunned by his terrifying speed upgrade. Did this sneaky royal bastard actually sandbag his true power during their entire yesterday brawl? Our crazy prince rains down an absolute storm of chaotic slashes, completely trapping the genius prodigy in a desperate sweat-inducing defense. She stumbles backward, completely exhausted, but Adrian relentlessly pushes the offensive. This crazy prince refuses to give her a single breather. He launches another devastating strike, sending a blade spinning wildly into the sky. The defeated warrior is actually the seasoned knight. The spectating soldiers stand there with their jaws completely dropped. Even Valhard watches in pure absolute disbelief. Meanwhile, Adrian smirks with total confidence, declaring his glorious victory. Pointing his gleaming blade, he bluntly demands her, talk about escalating from 0 to 100 in a split second. Serving as the personal guard to the kingdom's most notorious trash prince was honestly not the living nightmare she had originally expected. Sure, the guy radiated total arrogance, but he completely lacked the twisted malice all those nasty palace rumors had constantly claimed. Honestly, he was the exact opposite. The prince just kept watching our hero train in the pouring rain, casually warning the kid that those conditions were actually incredibly dangerous. And right on cue, a massive lightning bolt crashes down just inches away. Yet Adrian barely even flinched at the strike. Right then, she felt a powerful premonition that this eccentric highness was destined for absolute greatness. Flashing back to reality, the surrounding soldiers are completely losing their minds over our protagonist's insanely outrageous demand. The knight stands totally stunned, seriously wondering if she had completely misjudged this person. Trembling slightly, Arwen asks if this is what his highness truly desires. He casually replies that she is merely an apprentice who miserably failed to beat a notorious royal scoundrel. That is exactly why he intensely covets the raw potential and blazing future of the knight known as Arwen Carrion. Above all else, he craves a fiercely loyal follower, not some generic bodyguard assigned through a boring royal decree. He wants a warrior bound exclusively to his very soul. Plus, her swordsmanship skills are honestly off the absolute charts. Once again, he extends the epic invitation for the girl to be his knight. She freezes in stunned silence, realizing she had finally become the person she always dreamed of being. Before this, nobody respected her knightly path, forcing her to grind away twice as hard as every other arrogant recruit. Even after completely thrashing the other apprentices and proving her undeniable worth, the official knight title still cruelly eluded her. But fate had finally shifted. Someone truly desired her dormant knightly potential, though she half doubted if this crazy prince was serious. Gathering her burning resolve, Arwen demands one solemn promise. He must always treat her purely as a knight, never just as a woman. If he honors that vow, she will gladly follow his every single command. Their eyes intensely lock together, and so Adrian solemnly seals the eternal deal. Dropping to one knee, she fiercely pledges absolute eternal loyalty to Prince Adrian Leonberger, fully dedicating her sword and the rest of her life to his majesty. Valhard silently witnesses this legendary turning point. Raising his sword high, Adrian officially dubs her his knight in the glorious Leonberger family name. Time swiftly passes and the fiery girl continues her hellish training. The entire palace is completely baffled by her absolute loyalty to the idiot prince, spinning wild rumors about a scandalous secret romance. Meanwhile, Adrian eavesdrops from the shadows, hilariously wondering if the ultimate villain of this world was actually his past trashy self. Spoiler alert, it absolutely was. The stoic knight standing beside him merely watches the ridiculous drama in complete silence. Shortly after, he summons our main protagonist to deeply discuss the heavy words exchanged during that fateful duel. Flashing back a few days to the duel's dramatic climax, Adrian bluntly asks if the man was nursing a bruised ego. Regardless, facts are facts. If a sudden royal decree shipped him away, he would obediently pack his bags without a single hesitation. Still, he casually mentions he could swear a personal oath later on. Taking the bait, the knight intensely asks if he made such a vow, would his highness actually accept it? But our boy ruthlessly rejects him, claiming raising a grown man sounds incredibly boring. The knight chuckles heartily, leaving Adrian totally confused. Sometime later, our protagonist rips open an official letter dramatically announcing the glorious end of his royal suspension. This legally forced him to attend the notoriously awkward royal family banquet. He realizes his punishment was cut short by a month and a half, which is weird, since the king previously looked ready to permanently disown him and never see him again. He truly cannot fathom the king's messy logic. The knight simply tilts his head, asking if he isn't totally thrilled about his newfound freedom, but Adrian just casually shrugs. Freedom means absolutely nothing when stepping outside the palace walls leads to literally nowhere. Without any connections, he literally has no one to meet. Suddenly, a flustered maid pops in announcing that yet another flashy invitation has arrived for his highness. Adrian snatches the envelope, squinting at the ridiculous title. A social club exclusively for elite young masters. What absolute total nonsense. Seriously, what a completely weird name. The maid hesitantly reminds him he is actually a core member, making our protagonist dreadfully suspicious if this is a strange place. One quick glance at the maid's completely disgusted expression tells him absolutely everything he needs to know. That place is nothing but a degenerate den of endless booze and wild partying. Adrian instantly waves it off, claiming to just leave it alone because he is way too busy training. However, taking a much closer look, he suddenly realizes it was from Bernardo, a so-called buddy from the prestigious Eli family. Meanwhile, at that exact moment, Adrian recalled his uncle's old tale, the stubborn clan that guarded the Mana Heart to the bitter end. They had supposedly collapsed a century ago. Wildly enough, it was that exact same bloodline. Guess he absolutely has to crash this party now. He just prayed their current situation was not a total disaster. Exactly 4 months after transmigrating into this trash-tier prince, his relentless, hellish training was finally melting away the royal blubber. And let me tell you the absolute truth right now. Our prince had evolved into a totally different beast. The glow-up was absolutely legendary. The main character casually mentioned dropping a few pounds while his tailor gasped that his waistline had literally vanished by half. Adrian tossed the banquet wardrobe duties to the tailor, smirking that his godly physique would definitely shrink down even more. Time flew by once more, and our hero rolled out to the Social Masters Club. Seriously, who the heck approved that ultra-cringe name? Slumped inside his luxury carriage, Adrian grumbled. Playing the Royal Highness role was an absolute massive pain in the neck. The fake smiles, the flashy rides, the endless guards, all of it was pure, suffocating torture. Glancing sideways, his eyes locked onto his personal maid. He pointed blankly, questioning the nasty scar marring her shoulder. She bowed her head, blaming her own clumsiness, begging his highness to erase the pathetic sight from his memory. Adrian instantly connected the dots. The previous owner of this body was pure garbage. Also, he saw this girl daily, yet never even bothered to learn her name. He finally asked for her true identity, and she quietly answered Adelia Byron. A fallen clan barely clinging to the nobility registry. Hearing that name, Adrian flashed back to an ancient era without kingdoms. Before cities even existed, it was a brutal age where pathetic humans were nothing but free loot and easy prey. But absolute legends rose up to shatter that miserable destiny of human extinction. They clawed humanity up to the top of the food chain. In total history, hailed these 5 titans as the Elector Princes. And insanely enough, one of those mythical heroes wielded him as her personal blade. Together they crushed the giant king, ending centuries of human suffering. That absolute powerhouse who secured victory was feared as the Lady of the Iron Sword. Her true name, Agnes Byron. The most hilarious part, that violent woman swore like a drunken sailor mid-battle. Just recalling her insane trash talk gave him massive goosebumps. Anyway, this timid maid, standing right here, actually carried that monstrous legend's bloodline. What in the world happened for her mighty family to fall this unbelievably hard? The knight barked that they had finally reached the venue. Adrian hopped out instantly without wasting a second, telling Adelia they desperately needed a lore drop chat later. The poor girl stood there, totally clueless. Suddenly, a flashy dude flagged the prince down. It was Bernardo of the Eli clan, rolling out the welcome mat. Honestly, the guy looked absolutely thrilled to death to see our royal menace. Catching that name, Adrian arched an eyebrow. So this clown was the famous Eli family heir. Bernardo gushed over how brutal his weight loss journey must have been. In response, our boy inexplicably just flashed a mysteriously wicked smirk. Bernardo nervously asked if he hit a nerve. But Adrian chuckled, stating he was thrilled he showed up because today was going to be pure, chaotic fun. The noble completely missed the villainous undertone. Fast forward, and they finally stepped inside that dreadful building. To be brutally honest, the stuffy vibe did not match any young bloods at all. Lounging on the premium leather sofas, Bernardo started sweating. Normally, this trash prince would be shamelessly hitting on every skirt in the room by now. His entire aura felt completely different. Just then, an arrogant noble popped up beside them, sparking up some juicy gossip. He bragged that His Highness conquered the gorgeous flower of the Iron Lion Castle. The spicy rumors were literally everywhere. Adrian stared at him with dead eyes. The trash noble sneered, joking that the armored beauty would look even better, completely stripped down. The prince leaned in, calmly asking if the fool had any siblings at home. The idiot proudly replied he only had a sister. And in that exact split second, bam, Adrian smashed a devastating right hook straight into the guy's face. The entire room froze in absolute terror. Adrian cracked his knuckles. Fantastic. That means your family bloodline will not completely die out. The prince delivered a soul-crushing kick right to the family jewels. He declared that from today onward, the sister was inheriting the dukedom. He unleashed a merciless combo. Shockingly, no one dared to intervene. They just watched the brutal beatdown in silence. Coughing up blood, the noble begged for a reason. Adrian grabbed his collar, ordering the trash to listen very closely. I do not care if you call me a monster, but I refuse to be treated like scum. The nobles gasped in sheer horror, but Adrian ignored them and resumed rearranging the guy's face. The noble was punted across the room like a rag doll. Yeah, he was definitely not waking up anytime soon. Adrian dusted off his hands and called out to Bernardo. Just like I predicted, today is an incredibly fun day. Bernardo's brain completely short-circuited. Why was this royal lunatic suddenly throwing hands? Panicking, he frantically screamed for someone to summon the court knights immediately. The guy obeys, and an agonizingly awkward silence instantly suffocates the entire hall. Our main character signals the ladies, politely dismissing them from the brewing chaos. Naturally, one stuck-up noble throws a fit, but before he can act, Adrian smirks, noting only ladies were excused. He adds a spicy threat, leave now and you will be walking out as a woman. That brutally shuts them up. Adrian glares, scolding their complete lack of royal respect and failure to kneel. Plus, they dared to laugh in a prince's face and openly mocked his precious knight. Casually, he asks his guards what exact crime fits this utter disrespect. His loyal knights promptly declare that insulting royalty is a direct crime against the crown. Worse, defying royal authority borders on sheer treason. The knights eagerly await his command to drag the trash away. Smirking devilishly, our boy cheerfully condemns every single one of them. Later, facing the king, Adrian gets scolded for causing massive chaos right after his suspension ended. 14 noble sons were tossed behind bars. Adrian casually deflects, asking if the king fears the noble backlash. Frankly, those pathetic families had already abandoned the brats to avoid staining their own precious reputations. They are complete lost causes, so a simple royal letter should easily suffice. Stunned, speechless, the tired king sighs heavily and simply dismisses the headache-inducing prince. Later, Adrian tries comforting a fiercely trembling maid, assuring her she is perfectly safe from harm. He curses the previous body owner, realizing the original prince totally traumatized the poor girl. Her legendary family's glory was erased, leaving their unparalleled martial arts completely forgotten by history. Their lofty pride vanished into thin air. Yet shockingly, this timid maid boasts wildly overpowered stats. She holds the terrifying war-crazed trait perfectly, mirroring a legendary warrior from the forgotten past. But without controlling that inner madness, releasing her into the world could be absolutely catastrophic. Still, it is worth risking. She boasts S-rank talent and a uniquely exploitable subservient trait. Specifically, she possesses the absolute spirit of a devoted servant. This absurd trait grants overwhelming joy, just by wholeheartedly serving a master's every single whim. Wasting zero time, our boy boldly demands she swear her eternal loyalty right then. Utterly confused, she panics as Adrian orders her to become his knight right on the spot. The panicked maid drops to her knees, claiming she is entirely unworthy of such a grand title. Since she considers her family plain, he boldly vows to personally take responsibility. In exchange for absolute loyalty, he silently promises to help control her terrifying inner madness. Tearfully, she asks if he truly intends to protect her fragile family. Adrian casually offers to relocate them to the royal capital for her ultimate peace of mind. Overwhelmed with sheer joy, the girl instantly swears absolute fealty, enthusiastically devoting her entire existence. Our protagonist accepts, demanding she unconditionally follow his every command from this monumental day forward. The crazy deal is sealed, though Adrian secretly sweats, wondering if he just made a colossal mistake. Only the wild future will reveal the truth. Hilariously scandalous rumors explode, claiming the scoundrel prince forced a knightly oath through dirty tactics. Gossip claims he violently beat innocent noble kids before tossing them into cold dungeon cells. Worse, making a swordless maid his knight clearly looks like him secretly building a scandalous harem. Our unfazed brat simply sighs, totally bewildered by everyone's sudden obsession with his daily life. He merely hired one knight, yet the entire palace has been agonizingly annoying since dawn. As crazy rumors spread like wildfire, his maid nervously announces the formidable queen's sudden arrival. The queen sighs, lamenting that her supposedly reformed son is tragically reverting to trashy habits. Still, she finds this amusing, plotting to cure her boredom by forcefully arranging his royal marriage. Flashing a terrifying smile, she demands his trust, promising to hunt down the perfect bride. She strides out confidently, leaving a completely dumbfounded Adrian sweating over his suddenly doomed bachelorhood. Moments later, Adelia approached our hero nervously, asking if she could actually awaken Mana too. Adrian grinned. She wouldn't just awaken it, she would develop something legendary, reviving the Forgotten Sword Empress. He had not forgotten a single detail, from her legendary footsteps to the deadly dance of her blade. Suddenly, a brilliant aura exploded around her. The system cheerfully chimed, detecting a massive mana surge. Boom! The energy flooded her veins, and the system announced a brand new mana heart was born. Adrian explained this was a secret refinement technique. Moving forward, she had to practice this crazy method entirely alone. Suddenly, our guy stumbled, cursing his weak body. Getting dizzy over one measly mana heart was totally embarrassing. Adelia panicked, desperately asking why her noble master would push himself so hard for a lowly servant. Waving it off, Adrian told her to leave. But noticing her intense gaze, he awkwardly asked why she was staring. With shining eyes, she dropped down, vowing absolute lifelong loyalty to her master. Our boy smirked, telling her to just remember his face. Honestly, he was sweating bullets, hoping she would not forget. A few days rolled by. The knight reported Bernardo was locked up by royal guards as a key witness. Nobody could even glimpse him until the official trial finally kicked off. Adrian wondered if he would be dragged to court, but the knight clarified that royals never take the witness stand. Meanwhile, the cute maid kept scrubbing, and Adrian casually checked on her recent progress. Specifically, he needed to know if her mana heart had stabilized. She eagerly nodded yes. Perfect. Starting today, she was his new workout buddy. He ordered her to gear up for the training grounds. It was definitely time to trash those dirty maid rags, right, partner? Minutes later, at the arena, a very confused Valahard demanded to know what our boy was plotting. Adrian claimed he was warming up, but Valahard pointed at the maid. Our hero grinned casually, admitting he was forging a knight. His furious uncle exploded, barking if the sacred knight title was just some joke. Right on cue, a panting Adelia jogged up proudly, announcing she finished 10 laps. Ignoring his grumpy uncle, Adrian tossed her a blade. It was time for a crash course in basic stances. He swiftly demonstrated the forms, challenging the rookie to mirror his precise movements. She gripped the hilt, and holy cow, her entire vibe turned terrifyingly sharp. Valahard's jaw dropped. Even Adrian was sweating, shocked. She flawlessly copied the technique after one glance. The innocent girl asked if she did okay, while Adrian internally panicked. This monster would surpass him instantly. Her core trait was dangerous. Absolute submission to the strong and zero respect for the weak. He was already sweating bullets. If this crazy talent outgrew him, he might end up as her punching bag. Meanwhile, Valahard completely flipped his script, totally mind-blown by her terrifying, heaven-defying talent. But our main character instantly cut him off, telling his uncle not to get funny ideas. Valahard scoffed, asking how a total rookie like Adrian could possibly train a once-in-a-generation genius. Simply put, he believed Adrian could never handle her monstrous potential. Our hero went dead silent. His past self's aura would have made this guy cry, but his current body was painfully weak. Smirking, Adrian declared that if he could not handle her, nobody could. He used to obliterate entire worlds. He was the magic sword Gruhan. Suddenly, the blue system screen flashed. His soul was forcefully manifesting, and just like that, his totally broken, overpowered, dragon-slaying aura erupted. Valahard froze like a statue, completely paralyzed by the sheer pressure. The tension was suffocating. Adrian casually tilted his head, declaring the girl belonged to him. He absolutely despised people touching his stuff. Meanwhile, his uncle was too terrified to breathe. But right then, our boy's vision blurred his grip on reality, violently slipping away. He mentally cursed. At this rate, his pathetic human shell would be devoured by the demonic sword. A dark doorway ripped open, and creepy, shadowy hands lunged at him, but he stood completely paralyzed. Snapping back to reality, his uncle muttered that a normal knight could save 10 foot soldiers. An elite knight could save over 100 lives. But that terrifying little maid, she might just save 1,000 or more. The lecture rolls on, but she boldly declares her body and soul belong solely to His Highness, flat out refusing anyone else's commands. Awkward, right? The man goes completely speechless. Adrian smirks, thinking dragging her soul back was totally worth it. After all, a perfectly loyal nature naturally bows to a superior being. Flipping the script, he roasts Valahard. Doesn't the old man have a life? His only initial goal here was just shredding some belly fat. If this guy wants to keep crashing at the palace, he needs to keep his nose out of Adrian's business. Hilariously, the proud man just nods along. From then on, the uncle practically lives at the palace just to secretly spectate Adelia's training. His hands were completely tied now. Zero complaining and absolutely no interfering allowed. Adrian finds his arrogant uncle's forced silence absolutely hilarious. Suddenly, a brilliant aura erupts, completely engulfing the young girl's blade. Both men stand there absolutely jaw-dropped by the blinding spectacle unfolding. Adrian chuckles. Did she actually just speedrun mastering the legendary sword resonance? Glowing with pride, he praises her insane talent, sweating a bit that she might actually outscale him soon. Right on cue, his furious uncle erupts, screaming about him, teaching her the mana heart. Was it not stupid enough for just him to learn such a garbage-tier technique? Hearing this blatant disrespect, our boy shoots him a death glare. Get out now. The dramatic uncle throws a massive fit. She had infinite potential and a golden path ahead, but Adrian single-handedly destroyed her entire future. Utterly fed up with the drama, our boy orders the guards to drag him out. But the stubborn old man huffs, storming off himself. With the trash taken out, Adelia nervously asks if her skill is really garbage. Adrian instantly shuts that doubt down with a confident smirk. He scoffs. These modern-day fools have absolutely no clue what a true supreme mana heart looks like. If they possessed half a brain, they would never have tossed such divine art away. Soon enough, she will experience its world-breaking power firsthand. Fast forward one day, and Adrian bursts into laughter. Didn't this boomer swear he would never return? The grumpy old man snaps back. He will fight using just one measly mana chain. If Adrian lands even a little pressure, he will instantly acknowledge his strength. Smirking, our main character draws his blade. He casually brings up their old wager, a blank check wish granted to the absolute victor. Valahard scoffs confidently. If the kid actually wins, he will grant absolutely any desire. He will even hand over the legendary family technique if asked, but Adrian just yawns. He could not care less about that dusty old skill. But a blank check wish, that works. In a flash, Adrian launches a blazing assault, though the veteran easily sidesteps it. Overflowing with cocky confidence, Valahard points out the kid's vicious neck-hunting strategy, a brutally ruthless sword style as always. Our boy repeats the same deadly strike, his eyes locked in absolute focus. Adrian unleashes a relentless barrage, yet Valahard casually swats the blade away with a single, lazy swing, mockingly asking if that is his absolute limit. The young protagonist stays dead silent, immediately executing a swift, tactical retreat backwards. Valahard laughs, asking if he is quitting already. Adrian mentally groans at the annoying taunts but admits the boomer's strength is totally absurd. The old man is deliberately stalling his mana release just to make Adrian's inevitable defeat look ridiculously pathetic. Adrian coldly calculates the odds. With his current basic mana heart, he is totally cooked. Suddenly, our boy shifts the entire mood. Doesn't the old man find history weird? 4 centuries ago, Mana Heart Knights were absolute mountain-shattering legends. Yet the second a flashy new trick dropped, those godly warriors were instantly tossed into the historical garbage bin. Society got totally brainwashed into thinking the mana chain is the ultimate unmatched cheat code for controlling pure energy. Valahard frowns, demanding to know where this history lesson is going. Adrian just smirks, revealing his wildly rebellious theory. Simply put, the legendary Mana Heart was never the problem. The pathetic users were. All mana hearts are definitely not built the same. He mockingly asks his uncle if he has ever heard a chivalric poem. The boomer erupts in anger. This is a deadly battlefield, not a stage for some cringe-tone deaf karaoke session. Adrian chuckles. Typical ignorant response from a guy who slandered the grand mana heart as a cheap, dirty trick for low-tier mercenaries. Adrian's aura explodes as he chants. The bloody path a knight walks forges their legacy. Without glorious victories, there is absolutely zero pride or power. Those eternal battle scars carve into the soul, transforming into an epic, chivalric poem. And that raw, legendary essence awakens inside the knight's blade. Ding! A brilliant system window suddenly pops up, announcing a new chivalric poem. He smirks, finally cashing in on 6 agonizing months of secret grinding. This explosive reality-bending surge is the Mana Heart's true terrifying potential. Bathed in a blinding god-like glow, Adrian stands tall. But Valahard scoffs, insisting this flashy light show will not change his humiliating defeat. A trash mana heart user could never ever dream of shattering the supreme mana current. Tuning out the boomer's trash talk, Adrian violently blitzes straight at his uncle. Who on earth claimed elven mana flips your heart's energy flow? Total nonsense. Our main character was sweating bullets while his uncle chilled completely. The old man even smirked, calling him a grandmaster of enduring like a stubborn idiot. But our guy just smirks. To snatch this epic poem, he had clashed blades over 100 times. He tanked elven mana pressure over 1,000 times. This technique was literally custom-built to crush a current knight. Boom, a massive shockwave shatters the air. Behold, the glorious overpowered majesty of the dual poem. Playtime was officially over. Wasting 0 seconds, their blades clash in a blistering all-out offensive symphony. Dripping with newfound swagger, he wonders just how long his dear uncle can actually survive this. Suddenly, the uncle coats his blade in heavy aura, launching a vicious counterattack. As our boy steps back, the old man looks absolutely mind-blown by his survival. Adrian smugly reminds him that all mana hearts are definitely not created equal. But the stubborn boomer completely ignores the lecture, calling his nephew an arrogant brat. Immediately the uncle lunges, slamming our kid straight into the wall. Guess the warm-up is completely over. Surviving this long was already a massive flex. The old knight definitely had to put some respect on his name. Crashing into the dirt, Adrian sighs inwardly. As expected, a basic trash-tier chivalric poem wouldn't cut it here. Shaking off the dust, he smirks. 4 centuries ago, those legendary knights made one seriously colossal blunder. They completely eradicated their enemies, leaving 0 threats for their kids. Initially, their legendary skills transferred perfectly. Flawless sword art's core refining secrets and those ridiculously epic chivalric poems were all handed down safely. But peaceful times ruined those hardcore achievements, letting them slowly fade into embarrassing obscurity. Anthems about unseen dragons and unknown giant kings. Over time, those hardcore flexes devolved into incredibly cringy empty bedtime fairy tales. Sure, rookies penned brand new poems, but they were absolute garbage compared to the overpowered verses of past legends. Flashing back to reality, our hero boldly claims that a basic monocurrent technique will literally never reach divine transcendence. Hearing this lore drop, the uncle bluntly admits he hasn't understood a single weird word coming out of his nephew's mouth. Adrian mentally roasts Valahard for being a clueless, arrogant boomer. It was high time to show these fools exactly what godly arts they had lost. Since the old man is painfully ignorant, Adrian decides to personally demonstrate the terrifying explosive might of a true mana heart. He starts chanting another holy verse, but the system aggressively flashes red. His pathetic current stats absolutely cannot handle this legendary grade. Straining hard, he barely hacks out a quarter of the incantation, the exact line about slicing through impenetrable dragon scales. But holy cow, that was enough juice. The kid rockets forward though, his monstrous uncle somehow impossibly blocks the devastating strike. Now the boomer was sweating buckets. The old knight panicked, realizing that maintaining this clash would completely vaporize his own energy. Kaboom! A massive magical detonation erupts violently, throwing our glorious protagonist completely across the shattered battlefield. As the smoke clears, the uncle is left standing. Our boy glares and sarcastically asks, "Didn't you promise to only use a single ring, you cheater?" The crazy part, even after shamelessly burning all 4 of his rings, the uncle's precious sword was completely snapped in half. Our battered hero rises while Valahard suffers an existential crisis. Wasn't it absolute common sense that heart mana was utter garbage compared to current mana? Well, that logic just got violently shattered, folks. Adrian flashes a victorious grin, boldly declaring Valahard's absolute defeat. Time skips forward, but our triumphant hero is currently writhing in agonizing mysterious pain. Tossing like a fish out of water, he groans. This hellish hangover is the brutal karma for recklessly pushing a legendary chivalric poem way past its absolute maximum limit. Activating a ridiculous myth-grade Dragonslayer verse literally shredded his internal core, but honestly, that epic flex was totally worth the agony. After all, this was the very first masterpiece poem he ever crafted himself. He will stubbornly stand tall against whatever insane tidal waves come next. Just then, Adelia happily bursts in. She cheerfully scolds him, revealing his dramatic fainting stunt caused absolute chaos, and his poor mother was literally having a massive meltdown. Also, that cheating uncle desperately demanded to know when he awoke. But our exhausted hero quickly begs her for silence. He urgently needs a power nap first. The devastating recoil of that overpowered poem was kicking his ass heavily. He knew exactly what awaited him. If he didn't quickly heal his severely fractured spirit from that reckless, forced cast, the ultimate penalty would be utterly terrifying. Past lives and current reality would violently blend into a chaotic blender, eventually shattering the fragile boundary of his actual sanity completely. He would plummet into absolute madness, tragically trapped on infinite replay, inside a bizarre, distorted hallucination of past glories. How utterly hilarious. He finally reincarnates as a squishy human just to risk getting eternally locked inside a stupid magical sword's memory bank. Time flows onward. Adrian later drops that the legendary Agnes Byron was an absolute beast with a blade. As her descendant, this girl might just inherit his hidden chivalric masterpiece. The girl looks completely starstruck, discovering her overpowered family tree, but Adrian brutally crushes her dreams, smirking that she needs to level up incredibly hard before touching a verse that godly. With that dropped, he asks her ultimate goal after mastering the way of the sword. The silver-haired girl just freezes completely. Her brain buffering was obvious. She had 0 clue. Adrian chuckles, saying if her mind is blank now, she can totally drop the answer later. Then she locks eyes and vows to remain his blade. Adrian is utterly stunned. He thinks how some epic tales start with loud trumpets, while others kick off with a bloody first step into war. But real legendary poems start with a pure oath. Suddenly the system chimes in. Adelia was offering a literal poem of total submission. Our boy just stares, wondering if this was her legend. Plus, an epic like this could totally buff others. Right on cue, the system announces a brand new chivalric poem is born. Just look at that massive skill tree, bro, but that one is merely common class. Adrian realizes this submission poem is a hardcore master-dedicated hymn. It is a soul-binding loyalty vow, even if it sounds a bit too much like a servant contract. Seriously, who would have ever predicted the Sword Queen's fierce descendant would unlock a submission poem? Talk about an unexpected free buff, right? He realizes that as the target of her crazy vow, Adelia leveling up will secretly farm massive benefits for him too. Our lucky guy hastily thanks her, secretly sweating over how these insane buffs will actually show up. A few peaceful days roll by, but our guy looks totally miserable. His loyal knights just stand there awkwardly, as his worried mother asks about his health. He instantly nods, yes, sweating bullets because dealing with haters is easy. But facing someone who genuinely adored this body's original trash owner, that is just peak awkwardness. Moments later, his mother gently probes if he hates his strict uncle. She pleads that the old man meant no harm. So even if he is secretly fuming, he really needs to drop the teenage angst. Adrian flatly denies any grudge. But his mother nervously points out he was acting like a total brat, complaining about literally everything. So his innocent act is obviously a massive lie. But our boy just shrugs it off, secretly smirking because he already roasted that old man into next week. Having his entire boomer pride and beliefs utterly crushed, the old guy must be suffering real bad. In cultivation terms, he basically planted a nasty heart demon in his uncle. If the boomer survives this mental breakdown, he might actually level up. But honestly, our boy could not care less about that drama. His mom sighs, explaining his uncle lived breathing the sword way more than normal folks, which naturally made him a rough, socially awkward meathead. Despite the absolute mess, he must secretly favor our main character. After all, the guy literally begged his royal majesty on his knees. Thanks to that grumpy boomer, his annoying house arrest got cancelled way early. But since chaos erupted the second his grounding ended, his poor uncle's political standing must be in absolute shambles right now. Adrian finally connects the dots on why the old man was acting like such a massive jerk, but still, he scratches his head wondering why the guy would tank such damage for him. Later on, an ancient tutor spawns carrying a mountain of thick books. Adrian glares, hating this nerd stuff from the very bottom of his soul. Instantly, our protagonist throws a full-on tantrum. He whines loudly about why a genius needs boring studying. The savage tutor just adjusts his glasses, declaring that anyone avoiding knowledge is basically an uncultured animal. Absolutely triggered, Adrian yells, asking if he is calling him a beast. The old troll smoothly replies that his highness just started studying, so he has not earned that title yet. But our arrogant main character puffs his chest. He confidently claims he knows every single cheat code, meaning there is zero need to study this boring trash. Hearing this massive flex, the sly tutor smiles, saying, if he is so smart, they should play a little game. He challenges him to a quick intellectual duel. The tutor promises if his brain matches his big mouth, he will literally vanish forever. Adrian eagerly takes the bait. Soon our boy is passionately lecturing about why backstabbers are the absolute worst threat ever. He dramatically preaches that giving people too much freedom just invites them to stomp all over your face. Wait, what is even happening right now? The cunning tutor just smirks, saying everything is perfectly fine. Handing over a shiny book, he promises a fun ride. They smoothly slip into a hardcore study session as hours magically melt away. Wrapping up the sneaky trap, the old man smiles and promises round 2 tomorrow. Shockingly, Adrian actually enjoyed the nerdy grind. A few minutes later, the horrifying realization hits him. He had just been totally tricked into a perfectly normal lesson. Honestly, that old fossil is a manipulative genius. Meanwhile, the clever gentleman walks away stunned, realizing this chaotic prince completely shatters all those nasty trash rumors. Another lazy day passes. Our boy is dramatically sprawled on his bed, groaning about ultimate boredom. He wonders if he grinded too hard lately, because without crazy training, his life feels utterly empty right now. Suddenly, Adelia pops in announcing Lord Valahard. Our boy totally lights up at the knock. Finally, some actual company. He waves his guest inside, figuring it has been a few days since their absolutely epic showdown. About freaking time, right? But wow, one look at the guy and yikes, he looks like he got totally run over by an isekai truck. That nasty heart demon is definitely still messing with his completely shattered mental state right now. The dude just stands in awkward silence, before suddenly dropping a massive apology. He totally shattered the solemn vow he originally swore. And thanks to that epic fail, our boy got seriously wrecked. Even 1,000 bowing apologies could not magically fix that colossal mess. But honestly, our kid knows the real damage was not from his uncle's flashy aura blade. It was the insane backlash from using that crazy dragon-slaying poem. Suddenly, his mother's warning totally echoes in his mind. Since he stirred up this massive drama, his uncle's political standing must be a total nightmare. Meanwhile, his uncle is drowning in absolute guilt, begging to pay compensation. "Take my arm," he offers dramatically. "Heck, take my eye if you want." Obviously, our boy is like, "Bro, why would I want your eyeball?" He remembers when this completely depressed guy was actually a total legend on the Swordmaster tier. But now he is nerfed by some incredibly stupid heart demon. So our hero plays the totally generous boss. He officially declares his very first request. "Just let me bust out of this boring place for a field trip." Valhard heavily sighs. "Your house arrest is officially over, kid. You can literally step outside whenever." But Adrian totally smirks. "I am not talking about a cute walk around the block. I need to travel far away. Like way outside the capital's boring walls." The uncle groans that organizing a massive royal road trip takes time. Plus, with that upcoming banquet, they absolutely cannot travel too far off the grid. But Adrian completely brushes off those boring logistics. Whatever that is, not a problem. Deal securely struck. The old man promises to send the actual itinerary soon and basically flees. Adrian then turns to his knight. "Dude, why are you staring at me?" The knight completely deadpans. "Well, I honestly expected your highness to demand something totally insane." The count totally failed his oath. This was the absolute perfect chance to completely fleece him. Adrian just casually shrugs. Seeing that incredibly stubborn boomer look so utterly defeated, I actually felt bad. The knight immediately bursts out laughing. Adrian just glares. "You are getting way too totally comfortable, pal." Just then, Adelia bursts into the room. The super important letter he desperately wanted has finally dropped. It is from Arwen. She totally brags about leveling up, recently hinting she might pop by for a visit soon. She basically begs him to stay completely safe until then. Our boy practically beams at the perfectly timed message. Talk about flawless comedic timing. 5 excruciating days drag by before his uncle officially greenlights the trip. 2 days later, departure time. A whole boring week later, our main character lounges in a carriage, casually asking which random territory they are crossing. His absolute buzzkill companion completely sighs. "Can you just sit still? If I am going to drop lore, you need to firmly plant yourself in that carriage seat." Basically, they are heading straight into Count Ellen's legendary domain. It is literally the ultimate weapons hub for the palace, packed with massive iron mines for premium loot and a legendary blacksmith guild to perfectly craft it. No cap, more than half of the royal family's completely overpowered gear drops straight from this blessed clan. Adrian's eyes totally light up. Since he just wildly leveled up his stats, it is absolutely time to snag an epic tier sword of his own. Normally, he could casually loot a decent blade from the royal vault. But life is never easy. Thanks to his absolute menace of a past, the higher-ups absolutely refuse to hand him a dangerous weapon. My totally awesome friend, with his completely chaotic track record, makes total sense. So to get a truly legendary weapon, he must totally go hunting outside the palace. Plus, Valhard is secretly a massive softie for setting this awesome trip up. Anyway, their absolutely grueling 20-day road trip officially begins. The itinerary, a quick 3-day pit stop at Count Ellen's turf, then they double back to the awesome Iron Lion Castle just 2 days away. After that, they will completely crash and recover before heading back to the royal capital. Right now, our poor hero has been totally trapped in this bumpy carriage for 3 agonizing days straight, and his boring travel buddy makes it absolutely worse. Utterly dying of sheer boredom, he figures he might as well check his totally drained mana heart while just sitting there. It is completely hollowed out from that insane dragon poem backlash. But hey, time to start massively grinding stats again. His completely overpowered senses remain totally sharp. He easily detects everything from the gentle outside breeze to the absolutely clueless knights chatting away. By casually absorbing those tiny ambient mana particles, he slowly starts power charging his empty mana core back to life. Shockingly, it totally works. But wait, something is incredibly different this time. His internal mana heart has massively expanded. Ping. The system totally freaks out. Warning, he performed an impossible miracle, glimpsing a truly terrifying god-tier will. Adrian realized this was the brutal hangover from spamming his overpowered dragon form. Right on cue, the glorious system chimed in. Ding, he just unlocked the sword specialist class. His mana connection leveled up, finally breaking through those annoying administrative blocks. The result, his third eye ability got a massive, totally broken power boost. Wasting absolutely zero time, he checked out his own stats, realizing his physical body had evolved into a total cheat code. Cut to Count Ellen's territory. And seriously, would you look at the absurd size of this guy's mansion? Cue the standard noble greeting with some guy practically drooling over the extreme honor of meeting them. The chatterbox introduced himself as Edgar of the Ellen family with his silent sidekick, Torrance, tagging along. Adrian played the polite guest. The guy in the flashy red uniform then offered to escort our bone-tired heroes to their VIP suite. Strolling through the massive hallways, our boy couldn't help but wonder, wasn't this place famous for crafting epic gear? And yep, the entire crib was absolutely stuffed to the ceiling with shiny weaponry. But hold up, they were just flashy, low-tier trash weapons, complete mall ninja garbage that would shatter in a real fight. Finding legendary loot here would be a huge headache. Flipping the script, he casually asked if the legendary blacksmith guild was actually parked somewhere nearby. If so, he definitely needed a VIP tour. Minutes later, the sweaty butler nervously warned him that crafters were notoriously rude and super stubborn. Apparently, when these guys get into the crafting zone, they would literally ghost the local lord to his face. So he begged our prince to just chill and forgive their terrible manners, blaming it all on the classic artisan spirit. Entering the scorching forge, our hero was genuinely shook. The guide nervously babbled about the insane heat, begging His Highness to tap out if the fire got too extreme to handle. But our hero just watched silently. Amid the roaring flames and chaotic hammering, one ridiculously crisp, perfect clink stood out from the crowd. It instantly clicked in his mind. Jackpot, this was exactly the vibe he was hunting for. I mean, his literal oldest memory was being an actual sword, remember? Just then, Adelia started freaking out about His Highness sweating buckets. He completely ignored her, entirely hypnotized by the mesmerizing rhythm of the old blacksmith. Suddenly, the whole crew dropped their hammers to properly bow to the Grand Prince, with the boss man stepping up for introductions. Yet one absolute madman just kept aggressively hammering away. The furious boss screamed at him to drop the tools and grovel, but Adrian coldly ordered the noisy manager to shut his trap. Glancing at the terrified apprentices, it was totally obvious they were dragged away from their work against their will. He smirked, warning them that their precious iron was cooling down. If they wanted a failed item, they could just keep standing there looking stupid. Instantly, Gerald went straight back to cooking. Adrian stayed totally mute, absolutely captivated by the crazy old man's technique. Seriously, the dude's crafting skills were unbelievably overpowered. Our protagonist sensed an insane aura from that crazy artisan, wondering what this wild feeling could be. Later on, the gossiping butler spilled the tea. This crazy old man had been stuck in an endless loop of forging and melting swords for 6 straight months. Our boy wondered if they were just trash rolls, but the confused butler quickly shot that theory down. Literally every single blade he crafted was an S-tier masterpiece. The guy was their undisputed crafting god. Every weapon looked completely flawless, making his habit of melting them down absolutely baffling. Plus, this absolute mad lad hadn't slept in a month, just hyper-focusing on his mysterious grind. Considering his advanced age, the whole guild was massively stressing out over his dropping health bar. Hearing this insane dedication, Adrian could only smile. Now that is what you call a top-tier craftsman. Days flew by, and our eccentric prince practically moved into the forge, camping out from sunrise to midnight like an obsessed fanboy. The stubborn old man just kept hammering away while our boy sat there in absolute silence, just letting him cook. Despite all the panicked rumors about a crazy royal inspection, there wasn't a single dramatic incident or explosion. The staff was genuinely shocked. But alas, the dreaded day of the prince's grand departure finally rolled around. Even on his last day, he was still glued to the anvil. He sighed, admitting he really wanted to see the final epic drop before dipping. Sadly, the crafting timer just wasn't going to finish in time. Looking totally bummed out, our hero mentioned the mandatory farewell banquet happening tonight, meaning he had to hit the road at first light. Fast forward to the break of dawn, suddenly the breathless butler came sprinting in. The crazy old master had actually done it. Rushing over at top speed, our boy found the exhausted artisan gently polishing his freshly forged blade. Holy cow. Now that legendary weapon was a confirmed undisputed S-class masterpiece. The legendary craftsman drops to his knees, offering his glowing masterpiece to our reincarnated prince. Jaws literally hit the floor. Adrian casually analyzes the blade. Heat it like a blazing sunrise, cool it to royal purple. Boom, a magnificent weapon fit for an emperor is born. Honestly, my brain hurts from all this epic blacksmith jargon. Our young prince stares deeply at the gleaming steel. So what do we call this absolute beauty? The old man chuckles. Twilight. But whether it brings the morning sun or the evening dark, that depends on you. For me, my life fades to dusk, but for your highness, a glorious dawn awaits. Adrian smirks. Smooth talker. Suddenly, the master collapses, his energy completely spent. He whispers, a shaky sigh of pure relief. His final masterpiece is done. Adrian instantly catches the frail man. Looks like the royal entourage is camping out here for one more night. The starry night quickly ticks by. Watching over him, the old man smiles. The second you stood behind me, destiny took over, guiding my heavy hammer. This blade chose its own birthday. Adrian leans in incredibly close. He whispers a massive secret we cannot even hear. Did he confess to being a literal sword before classic reincarnation slip? The blacksmith just laughs. With an aura like yours, you could even be a divine god. Suddenly, it all clicks for the dying master. Grasping the hilt, he prays the blade becomes as legendary as its owner. Gripping the frail hands tight, our main character makes a solemn vow. It absolutely will. With a peaceful smile, the legendary craftsman takes his final breath. A true artisan passing away at his absolute peak. Soon after, the divine weapon is carefully bundled up for the long journey. The sly butler steps in. A priceless treasure, surely, but perhaps too rustic for a noble prince to wield. What a total coincidence. I brought a fancy magic sword just for you. Adrian feigns a look of complete shock. Oh wow, what a generous offering. Internally, Adrian rates the mid-tier magical blade as totally acceptable free loot. But wait, the prince smirks. A blade forged with a master's dying soul is already the ultimate legendary tribute. Since you are offering this magical weapon anyway, I will gladly take both. Panic instantly strikes the poor butler. He completely played himself. Forced to smile through the absolute pain, he tried baiting the master weapon with his magic blade but got double robbed. A legendary massive fail. Shortly after, the royal convoy packs up aiming straight for the bustling capital. Adrian observes quietly. Suddenly, Velahard barks out orders. Saddle up, we ride full throttle toward the Iron Lion Fortress. Our fearless prince just blinks. Yeah, about that. I have zero idea how to ride a horse. Cue the awkward silence. Give him a break, guys. Swords do not exactly take equestrian lessons in their past lives. Fast forward through a hilariously bumpy and completely agonizing ride. Miraculously, they survive the saddle sores. Moving at a total snail pace, they hit their imposing destination a whole day later. Welcome to the legendary Iron Lion Castle. Almost instantly, a massive armored battalion blocks their path. The commanding officer steps up. York of the Willow bloodline proudly salutes the first prince. Adrian scans the intense crowd. Their murderous glares are completely failing to hide their jealousy. Something spicy is brewing. Time to troll the absolute heck out of them. He dramatically calls for his loyal knight Arwen. The beauty bows gracefully. I counted every single torturous second until your glorious return, my precious prince. The soldiers practically foam at the mouth with blazing envy, and incredibly Adelia chimes in with her own fierce devotion. Watching the troops ready to absolute riot, Adrian smoothly places a calming hand on her shoulder. She snaps back to her cool self. A perfect flex of his absolute authority, he turns back to Arwen. Walk with me, he commands. We have a massive amount of catching up to do. Then he throws a devastating side-eye. Actually, let the jealous peanut gallery tag along too. Moments later, Adrian draws his blade. They call the Iron Lions the strongest swordsmen around. Let us test that rumor. So who wants to get completely wrecked first? The ranks erupt in chaotic arguing, while our prince just smirks. Scared of hitting royalty, I swear on the Leonberger bloodline, no executions if you accidentally scratch my face. Total silence. Nobody. Wow, I guess the legendary Iron Lions are just a pack of timid little kittens. Snap, a hot-headed soldier finally takes the bait. Enter Dale, the enraged redhead, stepping up to the fierce challenge. I am complete garbage at the Iron Lion style, but please let this humble scrub challenge your highness. Adrian just laughs it off. Hey, no sweat, he literally invited this epic beatdown to happen. Zero hesitation, the dude attacks, but our boy effortlessly parries the strike like an absolute raid boss. While the redhead heavily struggles, Adrian instantly yeets the poor guy across the courtyard with zero effort. Bro, having a mana heart is basically cheating. Without blinking, Adrian aggressively demands the next poor victim. Another brave fool tries his luck. Spoiler alert, he gets embarrassingly trashed, just like his poor buddy. Fast forward a bit, our crazy protagonist is literally speedrunning through these hopelessly outmatched Royal Fortress guards. Adrian is practically yawning. In minutes, the entire squad is hilariously faceplanting the dirt, completely knocked out. His patience is hitting rock bottom. Our guy desperately wants to brawl with the actual heavyweight veterans. Then he casually drops a bombshell on Arwen. When he heads back home, she is totally coming. She quietly accepts the sudden command. Suddenly, a new challenger approaches, claiming Adrian loves some spicy gambling. So to keep things aggressively entertaining, this random dude proposes a totally high-stakes wager right then. But Adrian instantly reads the room. He fiercely rejects it, practically screaming that Arwen is no trophy. If he really wants to gamble, they urgently need a vastly different prize. Flexing his shiny new blade, Adrian offers it up as the winning prize. The crowd collectively gasps. Before Arwen can nervously object, Adrian smoothly declares her worth completely crushes any legendary fancy sword. In his mind, an actual genius swordmaster completely outclasses some overhyped piece of pointy metal. The short-haired punk accepts. He flexes his title as Dunran Fahrenheit, bragging about almost hitting triple current. Adrian savagely mocks him for just being double current. Furious Dunran reveals his blade is a masterwork. If Dunran wins, his masterpiece goes to the prince. Smirking, Adrian calls out that absolutely hilarious coincidence. Drawing his own crazy weapon, Adrian casually flexes that he also got a blade from that master. Behold, the master's 100th legendary creation. Dunran completely freaks out, claiming he never heard about this. With a massive grin, Adrian casually mentions the master literally just finished forging it days ago. Exploding with fiery mana, the soldier admits that while the prince fights completely wrong, his ridiculous grinding effort is undeniably visible. So, to properly respect that insane hustle, he is going absolutely all out right now. Adrian laughs off the complete nonsense. It genuinely does not matter because this was never his true playground. He savagely declares that he only cares about earning respect from his own fiercely loyal crew. Igniting his crazy mana heart, he tells Arwen to watch. This totally overpowered path is her new destiny. Getting ridiculously hyped, Arwen starts glowing with excitement. She fiercely swears to follow his insane royal commands. Cutting elsewhere, Valhard grumbles about how many times they visited the Iron Lion Castle. His sidekick confirms 4 trips. The 4th prince totally ignores the royal throne drama, so he definitely avoids that messy place. The 3rd and 5th princes aggressively snooped around during house arrest. Even the 2nd prince casually visited. But despite being basically the worst trash ever, the 1st prince is undeniably still the true heir. But allowing this absolute royal circus to happen is definitely his massive fault too. If the 3rd Legion commander had shown even a tiny crumb of support, the prince wouldn't be this desperately isolated. The guy honestly cannot even argue. He actually totally completely ghosted his own royal nephew in the past. Back then, the prince was basically speedrunning his way into becoming an unhinged, brutal tyrant. One time he scolded the kid for chugging cursed potions, and the absolute madman literally attacked him. Dude, the 1st prince wasn't just a simple idiot, he was an aggressively hopeless, absolute mega trash scoundrel. Heading north completely disgusted his nephew, literally shipped him poisoned wine. The absolute sheer audacity of that gift. While effortlessly burning away that terribly cheap poison with raw mana, he permanently incinerated his remaining uncle-nephew affection. But suddenly, that irreversibly absolute trash scoundrel did a massive reverse card on his entire personality. He is hardcore grinding every single day. The guy dramatically points out that Valhard swore this prince could never rule. But bro, the absolute wild plot twist. His uncle completely changed his mind. He firmly believes this completely reborn, overpowered kid is totally different from the toxic trash bag he once was. Valhard practically gets on his knees. He desperately begs them to give the kid a fair shot at the throne. Completely speechless, the man stammers, wondering if he was losing his mind or if the 1st prince had actually transformed. Suddenly, a breathless soldier bursts through the doors. Oh boy, you just know this spells absolute disaster. Strolling the castle halls later, the guy casually dismisses the panic, claiming his elite soldiers know exactly when to hold back. So absolutely 0 casualties. He guarantees they would never knock a royal out cold. But Valahard smirks. Right now, you should pray for your own poor knight. Boom, exactly as predicted. Out of nowhere, the veteran knight gets launched through the air like a rag doll. The poor dude crashes hard, completely defeated. The entire crowd drops their jaws. His Highness claimed another shocking victory. His companion's brain practically short-circuits in disbelief. Valahard just chuckles. I totally warned you, did I not? Our crazy main character does not even pause for breath. Raising his blade, he arrogantly demands the next challenger. Flashing back to his fierce clash with the short-haired guy, our hero realizes his current battle poem lacks punch, and obviously dropping the epic Dragon Slayer verses on a basic grunt is total overkill. Boom, he violently ignites his mana heart. Suddenly absolute power surges, making his very own body feel utterly alien. Unbelievably, that legendary sensation returns. The kid slips into an absolute godlike state of supreme hyper-focus. Steel violently sings against steel. Snapping back to reality, his opponent is literally blasted across the entire arena. Time flies, and an unstoppable Adrian flawlessly sweeps the floor with every single soldier foolish enough to approach. By sunset, our absolute madman of a prince had utterly decimated a huge chunk of their elite knight order. Reciting his mystical verses, a system screen pings, a brand new line unlocks. His tragic morning poem just evolved into an epic battle anthem. Right then, the utterly exhausted boy was dangerously close to blacking out. Thankfully, a battered knight catches him. The man fiercely declares his absolute respect for his highness and his undeniable victory. The entire squad salutes our clueless main character. He sweats nervously, thinking, were these guys not trying to murder me? Meanwhile, Valahard and the stunned commander observe this crazy spectacle from afar. The commander sighs. These muscleheads are ridiculously simple. Nothing gets their blood pumping anymore except fierce swordplay and victory. Valahard chuckles. Judging by his pale face, the kid totally expected pure hatred, but to true warriors, a clean defeat beats a cowardly win. Honestly, glorious victory or crushing defeat barely matters. Overhearing this, Adrian smiles. He thought his glorious past vanished with his destroyed mana heart. Yet amazingly, one precious thing survived the test of time. Win or lose, the fiercely blazing spirit of a true knight never dies. Later, our prince finally heads back to his territory, tossing a cool goodbye and hoping their paths clash again someday. With the absolute chaos finally handled, our boy casually steps up to the royal carriage. Suddenly, he orders the count to completely bury the rumors of his crazy strength. Confused, Willowen asks, would flexing this power not secure royal authority? Smirking wickedly, our prince disagrees. This time is special. He secretly plans to pull a massive prank on an arrogant target. Shortly after, while the exhausted troops set up camp, the fiercely loyal Carls volunteers to scout the dark perimeter. In the shadows, a glaring Arwen silently judges our main character. She looks annoyed, but Adrian assumes she will warm up to him eventually. Whatever time, for some well-deserved sleep. But stepping inside his private tent surprise, Adelia is already waiting in there. Our poor main character practically short-circuits. He clearly just recruited a legendary, utterly overpowered S-rank genius. Yet here she is scrubbing floors like a basic maid. Exhausted, he just sighs. Soon, a curious Adelia softly asks if something is bothering him. Brushing it off, he claims everything is perfectly fine. Internally, though, those Iron Lion Knights were radically different from his expectations. Glaring at his system screen, his appraisal skill showed those supposedly elite knights possessed embarrassingly average rank B sword talent. Back in his golden era, those stats would barely hit the absolute minimum average. Even with decades of brutal bone-breaking training, those ordinary commoners would have tragically died as cannon fodder. Yet wildly, today's modern fighters somehow hit genuine sword expert status in just 20 or 30 short years. Basically, the legendary absolute superhumans got horribly nerfed while ordinary commoners received a massive heaven-defying system buff. It must be this shifting mana flow. His uncle possessed terrifying transcendent potential in the past, no wonder he furiously despised seeing such talent wasted. Sadly, this heavily restricted modern era completely crushes any real chance to unlock those legendary god-tier superhuman limits. Ultimately, this incredibly nerfed timeline is totally to blame. And honestly, our overpowered prince admits he desperately needs to study this bizarre new world. So our boy had to totally rethink his entire master plan from absolute scratch. Cue Uncle Valhart making an incredibly dramatic entrance. He heavily claps his nephew's shoulder, booming that this burning passion is exactly what he needs to furiously chase down his ultimate dream. After all, he'd completely tamed the Iron Lions. Any other snobby royal would have instantly failed, but Adrian, his uncle, praised the kid for playing an absolute masterstroke with those fiercely hardened warriors. Hold up, why is this scary warlord acting so nice? Our hero was sweating bullets, completely panicking over his uncle's totally bizarre and unexpected mood swing. Did the old man finally lose his marbles? But Valhart just smirked, reminding our bewildered boy about a certain high-stakes wager they had previously agreed upon. The crazy condition, crushing a legendary dual aura knight. True to his word, the terrifying 3rd Legion commander dropped a huge bombshell. He officially threw his absolute backing behind the prince. Adrian's jaw hit the floor. Cue internal screaming. Since when did he ever volunteer to sit on that cursed throne? Fast forward a bit and wow. That royal endorsement basically nuked the capital's political scene. Bootlickers frantically swarmed him with fake praises. Trapped in this suffocating circus, our desperately annoyed main character just fiercely begged his personal guards to kick the annoying crowd out. But Carl shot that down instantly. These parasites were summoned by absolute royal decree, making them completely untouchable right now. Groaning in pure defeat, Adrian basically ordered his loyal men to shove the annoying mob somewhere else. Later on, our exhausted protagonist finally caught a tiny breather. Sadly, his sweet peace was hilariously short-lived. Enter the angry sibling. His intensely jealous brother burst in screaming about betrayal and loudly accusing Adrian of secretly begging Count Valhart for legendary sword lessons. Oh, the absolute drama. The furious prince boldly declared total war, vowing to make our hero suffer deeply for turning him into a massive royal laughingstock. Adrian just stood there completely blinking in utter disbelief. He literally couldn't care less about their stupid sparkly chair of power. Bam, time to rewind the clock for context. Back then, Adrian sighed deeply, telling his uncle he'd tolerate the charade temporarily. But he aggressively, firmly refused to handle any massive royal succession headaches. He fiercely demanded why this insane scheme was launched blindly. Chuckling darkly, Valhart wondered if his nephew actually stressed over his safety. After all, the mighty Count was the absolute iron wall defending their fragile nation from terrifying northern beasts. He boldly promised their noble house would survive provided those pampered royals never forgot the chilling terror of the freezing winter. Honestly, this massive political earthquake was an unavoidable dark fate that was bound to violently shake the kingdom eventually. With piercing eyes, he asked if Adrian really ignored the brutal destiny of discarded firstborns. Cowardly hiding like a turtle wouldn't magically erase the massive target on his back. Need time to process this brutal reality. He'd be granted all the precious space required. But he dropped a chilling truth bomb. The absolute sacred claim of the eldest prince vanishes only through death. As the imposing commander finally exited, Adrian stubbornly mumbled that 1,000,000 whole years wouldn't be nearly enough to change his firm anti-royal stance. Because his true endgame, reclaiming his absolute godly martial strength that once proudly stood at the pinnacle of transcendence, he definitely wasn't hunting for some dangerously annoying golden crown. Well, that was his extremely confident assumption anyway. Flash forward to the grand banquet. Our hero casually strolled in, but the suffocatingly dark tension in the room was instantly thicker than mud. All greedy eyes intensely locked onto our protagonist like lasers. Even a super creepy hooded stalker lurked silently in the dark shadows. And boom, the most stressful party ever officially kicked off. Dude, my spider senses are screaming that total chaos is approaching. Strolling downstairs, Adrian coldly scanned the room seriously, doubting if these clowns were genuinely the kingdom's top elite. Hilariously, his system fully exposed their wicked serpent heart traits. These scumbags were certified greedy parasites who ruthlessly crushed the weak just to secretly line their own deep pockets. Only that tiny elite squad stationed right up front genuinely deserved his precious attention. Approaching Taylor, the main character quietly mumbled they needed a serious chat. Sure, the guy lacked overwhelming genius, but hey, at least his soul wasn't completely rotten yet. Honestly, basic decency was totally enough. Tonight they'd become the perfect hidden vessels to quietly nurture his powerful seeds. Dude, talk about some heavily intense foreshadowing. Suddenly, a wildly panicked guard loudly announced the grand arrival of Ambassador Quan de Bourgogne-Melier. Seriously, what an absurdly massive tongue twister. The entire room instantly scrambled to bow deeply before this terrifying super elite old geezer. The ancient diplomat smirked darkly, claiming it had been ages. Hearing that exact legendary name, our hero's eyes widened in sheer shock. Cue a crazy mental flashback. Adrian powerfully realized this wrinkly villain was the exact same absolute demon he had relentlessly battled 4 whole centuries ago. This legendary monster ruthlessly carved bloody scars across the entire nation. Yet this total madman actually dared to show his face here. Suddenly, a wildly clumsy noble dramatically tripped completely, soaking our stunned hero from head to toe in alcohol. Sweating massive buckets, the noble begged for mercy. Completely unfazed, Adrian casually brushed it off. Pivoting instantly, he whispered to Carl, demanding the clumsy guy's identity, revealing it was Marcus Bierfeld. Smirking slightly, Adrian internally realized not absolutely everyone here was completely rotten. That splash of water finally chilled his blazing temper. Moments later, our main character splashed his face. Suddenly, his uncle appeared. He warned that Marquis Bierfeld had noticed his murderous aura. He looked completely ready to start a riot. The Marquis was absolutely spot on. Our boy was hanging by a literal thread. His uncle demanded his actual plan. He scoffed, claiming he wasn't reckless. But one massive question still burned in his mind. The corrupt Bourgogne family arrogantly ruled the capital. Worse, the spineless nobles practically worshipped them over the actual royal family. The air was way too thick for peace. And this toxic power dynamic, definitely not a mutual alliance. Seriously, how did this proud nation hit rock bottom? His uncle sighed, revealing a brutally simple history. In the glorious past, fearless knights bravely rose up, crushing the endless imperial invasions. But time is cruel. The empire expanded relentlessly, creating an absolutely insurmountable power gap. Facing an unstoppable continental superpower, this proud kingdom was brutally forced to its knees. Hearing this grim truth, Adrian finally connected the missing pieces. Despite being a tiny borderland, this resilient nation once possessed a secret weapon against that monstrous empire. Legendary founding myths, mountain-like achievements, and the sacred knightly poems. Tragically, every single drop of that glory had vanished. Suddenly, a fire ignited in our protagonist's eyes. He boldly declared his new ambition to claim the ultimate throne. Valahard was completely stunned. Adrian knew this path invited chaos, but destiny demanded action. He literally forged half this kingdom himself. Later, returning to the grand banquet hall, our hero noticed the aristocrats sweating nervously. Adrian brutally scoffed at their pathetic manners. Even a lowly foreign diplomat received far better respect. Memories flooded back. Nobody ever expected his former comrade to ascend the throne. Back then, he was just some clueless country bumpkin, yet that rustic legend boldly commanded the masses, mirroring the exact legendary stance Adrian was taking right now. Taking a deep breath, he chanted the sacred knightly poem. It was definitely less cringeworthy than the Dragon Slayer epic. Still, it was the absolute perfect ultimate flex for this exact chaotic moment. Hell yeah. Boom. A majestic royal aura cloaked him. The mesmerized crowd instantly froze in awe, dropping into deep terrified bows. Ah, sweet respect, Adrian commanded them to rise. But suddenly a spine-chilling aura pierced through the room. Glancing sideways, his eyes locked onto a mysterious hooded figure. The hood dropped. Holy crap, a literal elf, she purred, genuinely shocked that mortals still chanted the ancient verses. Adrian's heart violently skipped a beat. Why the hell was this absolute psycho here? God-tier beauties who cherish nature and protect every single innocent bug. Majestic forest guardians living for centuries. At least that is the naive human fairy tale. Reality check, they are bloodthirsty predators using their heavenly looks to slaughter victims. And hero-tier high elves, utterly terrifying walking disasters. And the beauty standing before him, far beyond your average high-tier forest menace. Meet Sigun, a 1,000-year-old ancient high elf. She practically carried the legendary expedition that massacred the Raging Dragon 4 centuries ago. This totally insane stalker was dangerously obsessed with capturing him back then. After his dramatic death, he desperately prayed she hadn't seen through his new identity. The elf narrowed her eyes suspiciously, asking if they had met. Adrian practically broke his neck, shaking his head, lying about never seeing an elf. The lethal beauty intensely glared at him. 4 centuries ago, Sigun was basically an invincible raid boss. He dreaded thinking about the absolute monstrous power she wielded now. Breaking the silence, she smirked. Humans usually display 2 distinct reactions to her kind. Weak mortals instantly fall prey to their divine charm, but true martial masters immediately trigger their combat survival instincts. However, she casually mocked that His Highness clearly lacked that elite combat awareness. Adrian deadpanned that she just wasn't his type. Obviously, that bruised her massive ancient ego. Pulling up her hood, she coldly muttered that this brief encounter was delightfully entertaining. As she vanished, Adrian let out a massive breath. Crisis officially averted for today. Moments later, a literal parade of marriage candidates swarmed our hero. Dude, they even brought a literal toddler. This entire circus was absolute madness. Meanwhile, his mother fiercely lectured about the insanely impossible standards for a future queen. Thank God, because that hag's endless rambling was driving me insane. Suddenly, a royal guard announces the unthinkable. An elven delegation demands an audience. Right on cue, the mysterious hooded girl steps forward. Sigrun of the Mistletoe tribe offers greetings to the beautiful Queen Margarita. So that is her actual name. I had absolutely no clue. She notes their rare visit. An elf gracing the kingdom is a shocking historical event. Without missing a beat, Sigrun asks if Her Majesty seeks a worthy bride for the royal prince. Confirming the rumors, she dramatically throws back her hood. A high elf, in human society that is like ancient royalty descending from the heavens. Surprisingly, she claims their ages align perfectly. Oh boy, I smell a forced marriage trope. Ageless elven beauty apparently makes for the absolute perfect human spouse. Who knew? Called it, she declares that locking eyes instantly sparked their intertwined star-crossed destiny. Hold up. Elves literally cannot lie about fate. Is she actually dead serious right now? Margarita freezes in pure, unadulterated shock. The throne room erupts in chaotic whispers. Adrian grabs her hand, demanding a private chat immediately. Once alone in the shadows, Adrian completely drops his act. What is her real endgame? She plays innocent, claiming she only wants peace between the elves and the human realm. But Adrian is not buying it. He glares, warning the high elf to try again. He calls out her identity. The blood-soaked executioner wielding the Mistletoe tribe's cursed blade. Is she here to spy or slaughter? Sigrun's smug smile shatters. How does he know? Adrian sweats internally. She is an absolute monster. Right now, he could never defeat her. And if she truly sensed his destiny, that means her power is terrifyingly high. She can literally read his reincarnated soul. Sigrun smirks coldly. Knowing she is an executioner playing dumb is begging for a death sentence. But our guy fires back. Running his mouth to an assassin is an equally quick death. He demands she drops the ridiculous marriage plot. Keep her pointy ears out of this. Right now, she is just intensely curious. But if he slips up, this lunatic elf will end him. Time for a bluff. He needs to bait her. Sigrun leans in, demanding his identity. He chuckles darkly. He is just a trash prince utterly discarded by his own royal father. Want to know his secret? Just watch him grow. Sigrun's eyes widen, confirming her suspicions. Her elders definitely did not send her on some boring, mundane diplomatic chore. It was all because of this anomalous prince. Meanwhile, our stressed main character just wants to escape. Flash forward to the throne room, and bro, they are casually holding hands in public. Standing confidently before the queen, Adrian drops a massive bomb. He accepts the political engagement. Holy crap, this escalated from 0 to 100 in record time. He internally cringes at acting chummy with an assassin. Obviously, this fake marriage needs serious stalling. He is buying time. He knows the queen will drag out the official paperwork for ages. For his rival Sean, it gives him a brief window to actually grow stronger. But for Adrian, it is a desperate ticking clock to power up and survive this psycho. Meanwhile, his jealous brother fumes with rage. He screams that Adrian's only advantage is royal luck. First, Adrian stole their uncle's backing and the Iron Lion prize. Now he gets the elf. Whatever, he grins wickedly, remembering their upcoming duel. He will completely crush him then. This guy is plotting pure murder. Fast forward, the day of their brutal showdown finally dawns. Boom, over in a flash, our boy didn't even break a sweat. Meanwhile, his extra brother brought a whole peanut gallery, smugly asking if he enjoyed the VIP show. He sincerely hopes he won't let his dear fans down. Adrian just sighs. He already knew this, but damn, the guy never shuts up. The triggered brat charges in head first. Adrian shrugs, admitting he was just going to toy with him, but his schedule has actually been super packed lately. No time for games. Bam! The poor fool eats dirt in mere seconds, leaving the entire crowd absolutely flabbergasted. Even the veteran knight drops his jaw, wondering if this absolute beast is really the first prince. With the trash properly disposed of, Adrian takes his flawless victory and immediately dips from the scene without a second glance. Gossip spreads like wildfire. Everyone is whispering about Prince Gilhan getting utterly clapped by Adrian. Then the loser wakes up screaming for his gear, demanding a salty run back. Seriously, the sheer amount of copium this guy breathes is insane. Meanwhile, the knight reports that our main character already speedran his exit, leaving the capital alongside Count Valahard. He completely ghosted everyone to head north straight to the Valahard family estate. On the road, Valahard praises his surprisingly decent horseback skills. Adrian just casually flexes, asking if riding is supposed to be hard. Changing the subject, his uncle wonders why they are rushing. The royal banquet literally just ended, so shouldn't he chill out and take a well-deserved nap? But Adrian coldly spits facts. The toxic capital has absolutely nothing left for him. He refuses to hang out with blind nobles who ignore their actual ruler completely, preferring to lick the boots of the empire's pathetic dogs. Plus, knightly meatheads are way more his vibe. His uncle laughs, warning him that knights might lack noble cunning, but they are incredibly stubborn boomers. The boring lore drop continues with his uncle sweating over how hilariously reckless our prince is acting lately. Adrian just shudders. If he wastes any time, he will end up forcefully hitched to that absolute psycho. Historically, marrying her equals an instant game over. He desperately needs to level up before his doom arrives. To grind experience fast, there is one legendary training zone, the ultimate hardcore server where human limits shatter and ancient martial arts were actually born. Right on cue, Valahard dramatically announces their arrival at the legendary Blade Mountains. It is the brutal frontier his stubborn family has defended for literally forever. Meanwhile, our overpowered hero is freezing his butt off, realizing he needs cold resistance fast. Next to him, Arwen is also practically turning into a human popsicle. Adrian checks on her, but she plays it tough. He casually mentions she can tag out with the benchwarmers whenever the frostbite gets too annoying, but she hits him with classic knightly pride, stubbornly refusing any personal comfort. Adrian smirks, glad at least one person has protagonist energy. Meanwhile, the background extras are whining non-stop about being forcefully drafted on this frozen field trip. If Carl were here, he would have totally slapped some discipline into them. Cue the cinematic flashback. The grumpy king sternly lectures that the royal guard are definitely not his personal bodyguards. Long story short, Carl got totally bench-blocked from this northern raid. Still, even with all his trash-tier past mistakes, the king acknowledged his own blood. Regardless, the old man's attitude was insanely extra. There is definitely some juicy hidden lore behind all that drama. Valahard suddenly yells at everyone to hustle up, unless they actually want to become permanent ice sculptures in the approaching blizzard. Time ticks down. Valahard orders the squad to ditch the fancy carriages, grab the horses, and start hiking like real men. Adrian snickers, realizing the crazy boomer used actual mana just to yell louder. Our hero then smoothly helps Adelia step down from her ride. Arwen runs up, worriedly asking if he is holding up okay. Meanwhile, the monster blizzard is aggressively cranking up to 11. Getting seriously annoyed, Adrian dumps Adelia onto Arwen and aggressively orders the heavily armored idiots to drop their massive shields immediately. Carrying those giant kites will just blow them away like helpless balloons. They need to dump all the dead weight, keeping only their weapons. Every single step through the snow felt like lifting boulders. To make matters worse, everyone's stamina was practically hitting zero. Fodder knights start dropping like flies. Adrian marches right back to the front lines, heaving a collapsed soldier over his shoulder to carry him. Dude is an absolute unit. They blindly push forward through the whiteout until the massive silhouette of the fortress finally appears. Hilariously enough, the ridiculous blizzard magically stops the exact second they arrive. The sky clears up instantly, as if the severe weather was just aggressively trolling them. Right on cue, Valahard fiercely approaches the massive iron gate. Flexing his title as the Supreme Commander of the 3rd Legion, he officially welcomes the first prince to his brutal domain. Our boy looks around totally hyped, while his uncle formally introduces the legendary Winter Castle. Winter Castle is the absolute final line of defense in the frozen north, a colossal anti-monster stronghold, built to completely block the apocalyptic hordes. For regular grunts, it is literally hell on earth. But for scheming nobles worldwide, it is a juicy target to violently measure their political clout. But for the natives born in this freezing hell, it's a sacred duty. A badge of lifelong freezing cold honor. Stepping up, the intense-looking guy introduces himself as Vicente. He dramatically hands over the acting commander badge. Returning to his ranger squad, he's just relieved his tough dad survived. Valahard casually praises his boy. Adrian's jaw drops. Wait, this absolute unit of an uncle actually had a kid. Looking closely, the family resemblance is terrifying. Worse yet, they share the exact same stubborn, battle-crazy personality. Without missing a beat, Valahard points to our hero. Meet Prince Adrian, the royal troublemaker. Vicente offers a stiff, overly formal bow. Smirking down at him, Adrian casually hits him with a royal greeting. Vicente's blood is boiling. To him, Winter Castle is a sacred fortress for hardcore warriors risking their very souls. It's definitely no vacation spot for some exiled trash-tier prince looking for a romantic getaway. The misunderstandings are already piling up. Vicente glares, demanding to know why this royal headache dragged his father here. Valahard drops a bombshell. He's officially becoming the prince's personal mentor. Yep, he's sticking around the freezing kingdom for now. Vicente's brain short-circuits. Didn't his dad literally ditch this useless royal years ago for being a total disaster? The rugged veteran awkwardly looks away. Coughing, he mutters that destiny can change even the biggest fools. Valahard only asks for one favor. Just watch the kid's actions first before passing judgment on his royal highness. Cutting the heavy tension, Valahard shifts to business. How's the monster extermination tour going around the local villages? Vicente reports a steady monster body count. A few nasty nests remain, but with Dad back, it's hunting season. Our prince listens quietly as Vicente drops the real bad news. The biggest headache right now, green-skinned orcs. A dirty mob of almost 20 brutes has locked down the main entrance to the snowy mountain pass. Arrows alone won't pierce that thick green muscle. The rangers desperately need heavily armored knights to breach the line. Boom, Adrian crashes the chat casually, volunteering to wipe out this entire green-skinned mess himself. Vicente panics. These aren't your basic tutorial orcs. One wrong move from the prince could sabotage the entire ranger network. Ignoring the boy, Adrian glances at his uncle. Valahard immediately demands the exact combat specs of these mountain freaks. Intel confirms roughly 20 targets currently holding the deadly front line. A hidden shaman or elite warrior could totally be lurking. Despite the deadly risk, Valahard asks if Adrian is ready. Vicente violently objects. That mountain gap is a crucial lifeline for his stealthy ranger squads. Turning it into a chaotic war zone ruins everything. Plus, if the precious prince gets scratched, Valahard's neck gets chopped. Listening to this rant, Adrian smirks. His battle-crazed uncle actually raised a super-logical, highly protective kid. They dive into tactical planning while Vicente looks like he just swallowed a massive sour lemon. Shortly after, our royal boss drops the suicide mission news onto his totally unprepared knights. He casually announces a 20-orc extermination quest. Sweating bullets, the head knight desperately whines. His contract only covers VIP escorting. Adrian just flashes a wicked grin. Perfect. To escort him, they'll have to charge right into the bloody slaughter. Checkmate. The prince marches off, realizing these lazy guards are his permanent party members, now dead or alive. Time for a hellish training arc. At first glance, this squad looks absolutely hopeless in a real monster raid. But since his prestigious family handpicked them, their basic combat stats have to be halfway decent, right? Even if half these sketchy dudes look more like shadowy assassins than actual frontline sword swingers. Moments later, Vicente aggressively takes the vanguard. He glares back, warning his clueless royal highness of the immense danger. If this crazy dungeon raid fails, the political fallout will absolutely crush the prince's future. Amidst their fiery staring contest, a blue system screen suddenly pops up. Error message. Target status window is completely blocked. Adrian's eyes narrow. Vicente must be a monstrous triple-chain aura user. Behind them, fake rangers nervously grip their night weapons. These undercover guards definitely plan to hijack the fight if things turn ugly. Let them underestimate the awakened prince. Zero time to waste. The brutal monster extermination quest finally kicks into high gear. Trudging through the deep snow, Vicente barks orders. They must lock down their stamina and march like absolute ghosts. Burn out early, and the freezing frostbite will totally shatter their combat power when the swords start swinging. Blah blah blah. Adrian deadpans, realizing this intense kid is way more of a chatterbox than his old man. Suddenly, a terrifying crunch echoes. A scout rips out his spyglass. Massive bloodthirsty orcs are swarming ahead and they look hungry. The grunt asks for a strategy. And obviously our genius plan Leroy Jenkins straight into the mob. Right on cue, an ugly green brute spots our hiding spot. Everyone awkwardly stares at our main character who's busy feeling nostalgic. Suddenly, a massive volley of arrows rains down, turning those monsters into pincushions. Without skipping a beat, our boy unsheathes his blade. He vaults over a clumsy swing and buries his steel deep into green flesh. He practically sighs in relief. Ah, the sweet smell of bloodshed. The chaotic battlefield is his true home. Arwen dramatically jumps in, screaming about danger. Our guy just rolls his eyes and tells her to step back. Blade raised, he recalls a wild history lesson. 4 centuries ago, these ugly grunts weren't mindless beasts, but the continent's proud overlords. This isn't some glorious fairy tale. It's just the gritty ballad of a miserable dude with a massive grudge against orcs. So Adrian starts reciting that edgy poetry again. And boom, a ridiculously massive aura explodes across the sky. Our hero gets completely battle-ready. Cue the sudden flashback sequence where some red-haired snob gossips about Winter Castle's crazy high mortality rate. But his shady boss smirks, telling him to chill out. Supposedly, there wouldn't be any actual fighting involved. He mocks the trash prince's deployment, betting the royal loser will just hide indoors and shamelessly steal all his mighty uncle's hard-earned achievements. The real VIP of this stage is the uncle, obviously. His only job, play Peeping Tom at Winter Castle and immediately report back if anyone sneezes suspiciously. Tossing over a heavy coin pouch, the boss demands results. Our greedy spy confidently brags that it'll be a total cakewalk. Flash forward to reality and it's a total disaster. Amidst the absolute slaughter, our confident spy is shivering like a pathetic chihuahua. Panicking, he blindly rushes a monster only to get swatted down like a total scrub. Enter Arwen, the ultimate lifesaver. She one-shots the gigantic beast effortlessly. Glaring down, she scolds him to never drop his guard in a war zone. The traumatized spy nods frantically, too terrified to argue. But breathing is a luxury they cannot afford. The massacre continues. Arwen desperately screams for the troops to hold the line. Sweating drops, she analyzes the monstrous wave. With their pathetic numbers wiping out, this horde is basically mission impossible. But hold up. Out of nowhere, a sharp blade brutally skewers an orc's heart. Jaws collectively drop. Our crazy main character is officially done playing games. Standing in a literal sea of monsters, this absolute madman flashes a fearless grin. Zero hesitation, he violently blitzes the next target. A dark memory surfaces. No matter how many greenskins that old master slaughtered, the thirst for blood was never quenched. Driven by pure spite, he endlessly roamed those cursed badlands, hunting his sworn enemies down. His mana core had completely dried up centuries ago, but the stubborn old fool refused to die. Every agonizing step drained his youth. Only that terrifying demonic sword fueled his decaying body. To fulfill one last miserable wish, he was literally setting his remaining life force on fire. Just another tragic, non-playable character who lost his wife and daughter to the monsters. Yep, welcome to the classic cycle of manhwa revenge. And tragically, by the time he finally cornered his lifelong nemesis, his body was utterly shattered. Dragging his ruined limbs, he lunged, but realistically, raw willpower isn't enough to snap a curse of destiny. Eaten alive by old age, the warrior collapsed. Yet the absolute legend kept glaring until his dying breath. Just another unsung tragedy swallowed by history without a single round of applause. Since our boy was literally a sword back then, he's the sole witness. Snapping back to reality, the monster wipeout is already complete. Well, at least on the main character's side, because over in the peasant zone, the extras are still fighting for their lives. Gripping his hilt, Adrian smirks. The forgotten memories finally click into place. He finally recalls the infamous poem of vengeance, an ancient track that lacked an ending. Time to drop the final verse. Without missing a beat, he charges into the green meat grinder like an absolute boss. Locked in the zone, a blue holographic window pops up. The system confirms a brand new verse has dropped for his edgy poem. Chanting the cursed lyrics, he declares he will butcher these freaks as a tribute to the old man's ghost. The system dings. The vengeance track has evolved into a full-blown requiem. He glances around, realizing the slaughterfest is officially over. Vincent dramatically snaps an enemy banner over his knee, roaring that the greenskins are wiped out. Absolute victory. Adrian squints, realizing something insane. That commander is named Vincent, the exact same name as the tragic old dude who sacrificed everything. What a crazy twist of fate. Two wildly different men bound by the exact same legendary name. Talk about crazy timing. That geezer actually swore to completely annihilate that entire species in his next life. Moments later, Vincent violently shoves a tattered red banner into our hero's hands. Battalion rules strictly dictate the most valuable player of the battle claims the enemy's flag. It is the ultimate winner's flex. A completely priceless artifact, and its legendary new owner is none other than our boy. Arwen totally fangirls over his royal highness, praising his insane battlefield courage. Suddenly, the entire squad bows down, while our kid practically glows with absolute joy. Hoisting his new toy high, he proudly declares their epic triumph over the orc horde. Just like that, the troops officially accept our hero, welcoming him to Winter Castle. Honestly, the dude was way too obsessed with his shiny new prize. But then Vincent, radiating pure smugness, casually drops that he owns 16 of them. Oh snap, the petty flex battle has officially begun. Adrian just silently glares at him. But our guy straight up ignores the flex, shamelessly declaring the banner his one true destiny. Later on, the squad is casually roasting the orc camp. Vincent points out their miraculously low casualty rate against such an elite mob. Arwen still mourns the tragic losses, but cold-blooded Vincent insists that ultimate victory honors the dead, paying respects with the fresh blood of their slaughtered enemies. That is the hardcore Valahard way. Hearing this edgy philosophy, our boy squints at the knight. Could this guy seriously be the reincarnation of that legendary figure? He quickly calls him out, asking if the 3rd Legion had been secretly stalking them. Sweating slightly, the knight crafts a flimsy excuse about conveniently bumping into some nearby rangers and teaming up. Adrian sarcastically praises such a magically convenient coincidence. Obviously, our boy is not buying that garbage. He knows Vincent secretly planned this backup because he doubted his skills. Deflecting, Vincent changes the subject. How did heavy elite orcs sneak down the mountain without triggering a single ranger trap? Whatever the reason, heading back to base is the smartest play. Soon enough, the squad reaches the fortress. The big boss, Valahard, praises their epic, flawless clear, thrilled they survived the messy raid. Meanwhile, Adrian is still obsessively stroking his flag. Seriously, dude, give it a rest. The exhausted guards whisper that it is literally his 11th time flexing it. But our totally oblivious main character completely tunes out the haters. Vincent warns his dad about the suspiciously early orc spawn. Either they chased a massive boss monster or the mountain's ecosystem is crashing. Honestly, both scenarios are a massive headache for our crew. His dad sighs, wishing he could let them sleep, but this crisis demands immediate action. The whole party marches inside the stronghold. Before leaving the normally frosty Vincent side-eyes, our hero awkwardly admitting his fighting skills were top tier. Completely missing the compliment, our boy tilts his head and calls the knight an absolute weirdo. Arwen giggles, explaining that the tsundere knight is just severely embarrassed about suddenly acting nice. Right on cue, Adelia rushes over to celebrate his safe return. Oh no, brace yourselves for the cringe. The kid instantly whips out the cursed flag again, asking if she recognizes his legendary loot. Somebody please end my suffering. A few days later, Vincent briefs him about an upcoming recon mission to investigate the shady mountain zones. Since the danger level is completely unknown, they are exclusively recruiting high-level veterans for this extreme expedition. Basically, they are kindly telling His Royal Highness to sit this dangerous raid out. Our hero sarcastically asks why he personally delivered a message they already discussed. Vincent grumbles about his dad's annoying orders. It finally clicks in Adrian's brain. The old man is desperately trying to force a friendship between them. Honestly, making friends should not be this painful. After kicking the knight out, our boy gets lost in deep thought, staring at that stupid flag. Oh, for heaven's sake, not again. He reflects on his insane combat focus. Reciting a full epic poem mid-battle was a massive power move. He will definitely need that skill later. Sure, he technically plagiarized those ancient verses, but he vows to master them completely. Suddenly, a strange scratching interrupts his thoughts. He snaps his head toward the window. A tiny bird is perched there, but bro, this creature radiates pure demonic energy. Adrian instantly knows exactly which crazy villain sent this familiar. Without warning, the tiny beast opens its beak. It cheerfully asks if he enjoyed her little surprise gift. Adrian freezes in absolute horror. He demands to know if she deliberately spawned that elite orc raid. The bird casually replies she simply provided a boss-level challenge for His Highness. She genuinely hoped he would love this deadly surprise. Adrian scoffed inwardly. Dozens of brave patrolmen had perished in that bloodbath, yet this crazy elf was chatting like it was a tea party. Pointy-eared voyeurs. They absolutely loved watching humans clash with the massive orc horde they had deliberately lured over. Ah yes, peak elven goodwill right there. Cutting through the nonsense, he demanded she drop the act and spit out her real objective. Playing the tragic heroine, she sighed at his freezing attitude. Claiming unrequited love was painful, she dramatically vowed to wait for his icy heart to melt. Then her tone dropped to a tantalizing whisper. Deep within the forbidden mountain peaks, a magnificent sight awaited his eyes. A primordial entity slumbered within those peaks. If he played his cards right, the resulting epic saga would be absolute legendary material. Suddenly her feathered avatar started glitching out. The cheeky elf whined that her magical bandwidth was hitting its absolute limit. With a pathetic thud, the bird dropped dead. Adrian rolled his eyes, dubbing her the supreme champion of sheer annoyance. Her hidden agenda was glaringly obvious. She desperately wanted him to compose a brand new legendary epic. Whatever her scheme was, he would gladly dance to her chaotic tune for now. Later on, Vincent explained the grim reality. The border guards treated the mountain skirts like their backyard, but absolute terror kept them from venturing deeper. Those who dared simply vanished. Their solemn duty was blocking the monstrous tides, not playing suicidal explorers in the abyss. Adrian raised an eyebrow. So the deepest core was a giant, terrifying mystery box. Historically, aura-wielding knights conquered every global mystery, chasing ultimate transcendence. Yet this hellish zone remained a totally forbidden sanctuary. Smirking at the deadly odds, he realized stepping into this cursed territory was the best chaotic decision ever. Panicking slightly, Vincent aggressively advised throwing any suicidal thoughts of deep mountain exploration straight into the garbage. Adrian casually promised to behave. But come on folks, we all know this crazy bastard is absolutely going in. Well, maybe he would hold off for today. Just wait for the inevitable chaos. Polishing his shimmering blade, his curiosity burned like wildfire. The urge to blindly charge into that forbidden zone was practically eating him alive. But first, he needed more glorious victories. Suddenly, Valahard blew the massive war horn. An enemy ambush was instantly confirmed. The armored knights hit battle formation as our grinning hero arrived. Pointing toward the distant peaks, his uncle highlighted the crisis. Bleeding scouts were desperately sprinting downhill, leaving Adrian utterly confused by their sheer panic. Suddenly, a massive wave of brutal orcs charged out, riding giant, ferocious wolves. Alarm bells rang in our hero's mind. His uncle growled that those bloodthirsty beasts should have logically slaughtered the runners ages ago. As the frantic survivors rushed the fortress gates, one incredibly brave soul realized the grim math. He heroically turned back, sacrificing himself to block the savage tide. Buying precious seconds for his fleeing brothers, the lone warrior fought bravely before ascending to the great beyond. Tragically, his noble sacrifice failed to save the stragglers. From the towering ramparts, the garrison helplessly watched the brutal massacre unfold. Valahard barked a harsh order commanding everyone except the elite border watch to abandon the defensive walls immediately. Despair choked the remaining troops. Turning to his uncle, Adrian sharply questioned if he was dragged here just to witness this nightmare. His uncle nodded grimly. The whole slaughter was a painfully obvious trap. Sending backup would just feed more fresh meat to the grinder. Vincent chimed in, sighing that human logic completely failed against those unhinged beasts. Those freaks lacked survival instincts, thriving on endless meat grinder warfare. With the deadly winter just starting, rushing out in a blind rage was pure suicide. Right on cue, the monstrous horde aggressively marched toward the reinforced gates. Peering through a brass spyglass, a stunned guard spotted a miraculous sight. One of their fallen comrades was somehow still breathing out there. But the overwhelming sea of greenskins remained a fatal problem. Eyes narrowed, Valahard menacingly declared this brutal winter was mutating into an unprecedented disaster. Adrian suspected that devious elven manipulator was pulling these bloody strings. Suddenly, a terrifyingly hulking orc boss stomped onto the battlefield, unleashing a soul-shaking roar. It grabbed the survivor. Vincent panicked, predicting a brutal execution. Clamping a firm hand on his buddy's shoulder, our grinning hero confidently disagreed entirely. That wasn't an execution setup. The beast was actually throwing down a formal challenge. Lightning struck his mind. The elf's cryptic warning about a slumbering ancient horror finally made absolute terrifying sense. Shockingly, the colossal monster boomed in human tongues. He demanded an honorable clash to gloriously wash his disgraced legion's name in blood, all dedicated to their almighty sovereign. Utterly baffled, Valahard asked if these brainless brutes were genuinely using human hostages to force a gentlemanly brawl. Adrian eagerly confirmed the crazy theory, yet his comrades stared at him in sheer disbelief. Smirking, he declared that if words failed, he would just demonstrate it firsthand. Leaning over the towering ramparts, our crazy hero boldly accepted. He commanded the monster's lackeys to back off 200 paces and ditch their furry mounts immediately. The real battle was starting. The massive green dude is completely baffled. He asks how a puny human spits their tribal slang, wondering if he has secret orc DNA. But Adrian hits him with a casual shrug. He never even studied it, so are they finally throwing hands? The muscular boss gladly accepts, but he drops a heavy warning. Ruin this honorable duel with dirty tricks, and he is absolute dead meat. Our main character smirks, asking his squad if they finally trust his crazy skills. But those two goofs just stare like totally confused puppies. However, my dude, the realization quickly kicks in. They finally get the terrifying big picture. I mean, the entire green army literally backed off, leaving only the main fighters. Valhard is mind blown. He chilled here for dozens of winters, but never witnessed such a wild flex. Adrian sighs, telling them to pick their jaws off the floor. These ugly muscleheads have incredibly simple demands. It is a brutal 5-on-5 deathmatch, but get this, the fighters must be handpicked from the exact crew that survived the epic mountain range clash. The terrified squad frantically plots their genius strategy. Standing beside Arwen, Adrian casually points out that 2 deathmatch spots are already totally locked in. The sweating grunts absolutely panic, crying about how insanely suicidal this crazy plan is. But our unhinged kid laughs. Who else can spit their monstrous slang? Plus, he simply cannot reject a giant musclehead looking that hyped for battle. He turns to Arwen, asking if she is ready. Without skipping a single beat, our fierce magic queen confidently declares she is totally in. Minutes later, a flabbergasted Valhard begs to know his secret language tutor. The old man spent his entire life thinking these green beasts just grunted and smashed stuff. Adrian savagely tells the boomer to go read a book. He secretly knows only elite high-class orcs serving the tribal king can actually speak this ancient tongue. With the crazy terms completely locked in, the Suicide Squad prepares to drop down from the fortress wall. The ultimate deathmatch roster is officially set. Oh boy, this wild plot is finally getting incredibly spicy. Our main character smirks, knowing pure coincidences simply do not exist in this fantasy world. Because the exact second he stepped into this mess, rare elven envoys randomly spawned in a human kingdom they literally always ignore. And now, for the first time in 400 years, the legendary Orc King drops from the northern map. Honestly, his brain is fried trying to connect the plot dots, but who cares? It is time to smash. The epic showdown finally kicks off, and our boy is dripping with absolute overpowered main character confidence. The gigantic Orc King stares him down silently, wondering if this skinny kid is seriously his opponent. Adrian sassy grins, asking if the big guy is disappointed. Plot twist, it is exactly the opposite. The giant boss senses that our kid's crazy aura dwarfs everyone else, making him the absolute ultimate challenger. The monster drools, calling his magical body an absolute 5-star premium snack. Our boy laughs at the wild irony. How hilarious that a giant monster is the very first guy to fully respect his crazy stats without any human prejudice. Right on cue, Vincent totally panics. He cries that the boss is insanely overpowered and begs to swap places, but our main character literally has zero time for his dramatic nonsense. After all, Vincent has his own epic match to worry about. These beasts clearly hate peaceful dialogue, so the two titans instantly lock into their hardcore battle stances. Adrian yells that monsters do not politely take turns like fancy knights. Blasting forward, he screams at his terrified squad to do whatever it absolutely takes to survive. As the chaotic slugfest drags on, it is honestly impossible to tell who holds the winning plot armor. Our boy lands a crazy combo on the boss, but it literally deals 0 damage. The smug beast sighs, absolutely roasting him for having garbage physical stats despite his legendary aura. Our kid just smirks, revving up his overpowered mana heart. He casually announces that the real boss phase starts right now. A spine-chilling, monstrous aura instantly swallows the entire battlefield. Adrian gets massive deja vu. The absolute terror radiating from his soldiers perfectly matches the edgy vibes of that legendary vengeful wanderer who once soloed the Grand Plains. The more his brain goes into flashback mode, the more he realizes that speedrunning straight into this deadly zone was absolutely a massive big brain move. Popping his ultimate skill, he sarcastically thanks the boss for waiting. He casually states, "This giant monster is basically just free experience points for his next massive level up." Oh man, the kid is officially done playing around.